.900 hours Central Africa time here on the Newsroom. Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Marumo Kekana.
Now, we will be with you until 12 o'clock today. Today, the focus is on a good news story. Miss South Africa, Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters, has been crowned Miss Universe. Now, she's the second South African to win this title. Back 40 years ago was the last time we won this title.
It's been long. It's been a long
it's been
time.
A drought.
40 years.
You know the Israelites walked for 40 years in the desert.
Can we own it for the next 40 years?
There you go. So, we're asking you this question. It's not really a question. It's more of what are your congratulatory messages to Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters. There she's crowned Miss Universe 2017-18. Wonderful picture there. Let us know what's on your mind.
Oh, there she is. Doesn't it make you feel good that she's part of us? She's one of us.
Fantastic. Icona says, I'm over the moon right now. Finally, we've got one of our own on the list of beauties in the world. I'm so proud of her and all those who helped her.
And this one from Proudly saying that SABC Newsroom, well done, dear Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters. You made SA proud. You again presented to the world that sends a beautiful and very intelligent people. I wish you well, Miss Universe. Hashtag Demi for Miss Universe.
Yeah, there you go. But the focus also is on government that are fast-tracking the controversial nuclear deal that's expected to cost us 1 trillion rand. Now, the Department of Energy officials are allegedly working overtime, 12 o'clock at night, to finalize the country's reviewed integrated energy resource plan that will determine our final energy mix, Marumo.
No, of course, and we are asking you, do we need nuclear power? And this one coming in, well, this is the question, do we need nuclear energy in South Africa? And of course, 242 votes are in and 34% say yes, 66% say no.
No, they don't want nuclear, but you're also talking to us about this question.
Of course, we were also talking about this. And here's Nazim saying, I really don't think so. The money can be put somewhere where they can improve the lives of the poor. Hashtag SABC, hashtag SABC Newsroom.
Kenneth Malachi says, it's too expensive for now. Maybe at a later stage, and only when the need comes to push. Well, there you go. If we only need it, do we really need it now? That's another question. We have a number of role players here that will debate that question in a short while. That's what we have for you, but it was a brilliant sporting weekend.
It was a brilliant sporting weekend. Even the Boks won ever so convincingly out in Italy. Yes. Ever so impressive. And now what we are asking you this morning is, what was your sporting highlight over the weekend? We know domestically a whole lot of teams played, and they played to a goalless draw. And finally,
TP Mazembe. No, spoiled the party.
Oof, let's not even go there. Here's Kenneth Malachi saying, Kendall. Well, there's no Kendall, I guess it will be Marumo. None of your followers is saying anything about the Super Sport United. Well, I'm proud of them. It's better to have tried and lost than ever to have tried at all. Proud of the boys.
Well, there you go. Cecil says Manchester City winning 11 games in a row. Well, in a row. They are really on a roll there, it seems like.
No, they're on song, definitely.
Well, there you have it. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. Suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director Dr. Makhoba Manamela expected to face more grilling this morning when the Life Isidimeni arbitration hearings resumes. We'll go there live. The ANC presidential race hots up with the ruling party in the Western Cape choosing the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa as its preferred candidate to be ANC president after the December conference.
Miss Universe is South Africa!
And on that positive note, Miss South Africa, Demi-Leigh Nel-Peters has been crowned Miss Universe 2017-18. Wonderful. And it's a wonderful thing that the presenter didn't make a mistake by presenting another beauty as the winner. Well, on that note, before we get anywhere else, before we get to the news, let's find out from Marumo Kakana what's happening on the sports front.
Seeing Steve Harvey as the MC, and given what happened last year, I was not sure when he said Miss South Africa. I was thinking, do we wait a bit for him to say, excuse me, sorry, everyone. It's actually not. It was actually good that indeed it was Miss South Africa. In the sports news, in a weekend full of draws, the Buccaneers, Orlando Pirates, collected maximum points against the Siwele Bloemfontein Celtic. Pirates is the only team that won its match over the weekend. The Springboks registered a comprehensive victory against Italy. This and more later on during the sports bulletin, but now we hand you over to Elvis Presley to give you the headlines.
Thank you, Marumo. Top story this hour. Suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director Dr. Makgobo Manamela is expected to face further cross-examination today at the Life Esidimeni hearings in Parktown, Johannesburg. On Friday, Manamela refused to accept that she did not have the powers to sign off licenses for NGOs that receive mentally ill patients. Now, this was after the Legal Aid's SA's Lila Kraus tried to get a concession from Manamela based on the Health Minister, Aaron Motsaleri's letter that he presented in Parliament that all licenses were unlawful. 143 patients subsequently died at these NGOs. Manamela has already been on the witness stand for 3 days. Retired Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke reminded her to avail herself again today. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Department of Health has appointed an intervention team to help it deal with its troubles. The appointment comes after what the department calls critical inadequacies in running the health system. The 5-man team will focus on managerial as well as financial issues.
The team will be headed by Wits orthopedic professor, Professor Mkhululi Lukele. He'll be joined by Professor Craig Housam, Dr. Edith Mtla, Ms. Nomvula Marawa, and former National Treasury Director General Michael Sachs. Sachs will be tasked with sorting out the department's financial challenges. The department's finances are in dire straits as it faces multiple lawsuits and struggles to pay suppliers.
Michael Sachs will assume his responsibility in the province on the 1st of December. The team that the minister is going to go through will assume its responsibility on the 1st of December. We call it an intervention team because the state of affairs in the department requires a high caliber urgent intervention team that is put. That's why some of the people are recalled. People who have a good track record are recalled from retirement to help us stabilize the system, stabilize it financially, but turn its performance around.
The team will also deal with procurement and governance issues.
To clean up the whole procurement system and demand management, as well as payment of suppliers, financial management, to clean up and align the whole departmental financial systems and audit control. Number 4, maintenance of equipment and refurbishment of infrastructure, to look into delegations of CEOs and heads of hospitals and other health facilities as far as maintenance of equipment and infrastructure is concerned.
It will also establish whether the challenges faced by the department are linked to corruption. Mahla Kukomane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Off the record, if I believe in it.
Cyril Ramaphosa has been announced as the preferred candidate for the ANC president by the party in the Western Cape. The province consolidated its branch nominations ahead of the national conference next month. 145 out of the 189 branches in the Western Cape made the deadline to conclude their nominations by Sunday.
The Western Cape is the second province to announce its preferred candidates after the Northern Cape. But the process was not an easy one. By Friday, only 36 branches had concluded their nominations. factions within the party in the Western Cape were evident. But ANC General Secretary Gwede Mantashe said this was not out of the ordinary and called for unity.
Unity of the province is critical because it will contribute to the unity of the ANC broadly. And in doing that, we gave a number of examples of appreciating the fact that whether they disagree on preferences, they are not enemies. They are just disagreeing on preferred candidates, which is not unique. They have a duty to persuade each other and engage one another.
Not long after Mantashe left the meeting, the announcement was made.
The Western Cape will be supporting the name of Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC, including even some of those few branches that have nominated otherwise. It will be our responsibility to convince them that the democratic decision in the Western Cape, because we are not just an organization just in the space, we are an organization that its orientation is democratic centralism. Therefore, we'll persuade everybody in our province and beyond our province to support the name of Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC. We also, as this province, compelled, as per this decision, to pronounce and convince everybody that the deputy president will be Lindiwe Sisulu.
Ramaphosa got 121 votes and Sisulu 98. Branches still in dispute will be allowed to do mop-up operations, but the leadership says their additions are unlikely to make a huge difference. More than 170 delegates from the Western Cape are expected to attend the national conference in Johannesburg, backing the now Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa as the new ANC President. Nomawe Tusolwandle, SABC News, Cape Town.
Meanwhile, the ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe has called for unity at the Western Cape's Provincial General Council. Mantashe was speaking to the SABC News on the sidelines of the meeting. He was the province's preferred candidate for the position of national chairperson.
We send one message to the PGC that unity of the province is critical because it will contribute to the unity of the ANC broadly. And in doing that, we gave a number of examples of appreciating the fact that whether they disagree on preferences, they are not enemies. They are just disagreeing on preferred candidates, which is not unique. They have a duty to persuade each other and engage one another, but they must unify the province. That was the message.
Now, the ANC Provincial Council start consolidating their branch nominations for President Jacob Zuma's successor. And challenges to the nominations, the process there, they threaten to derail the conference, it says. Analyst says that the conference itself might not have the required delegates to go ahead, or its legitimacy may be challenged.
The deadline for ANC branches to nominate leaders and delegates was extended from November 15 to 25, and all provinces will forward their consolidated nominations to Luthuli House.
Then we'll go to the provinces and have pre-registration. And that pre-registration will be counterposed to what came out of the nominations. So nominations themselves are beginning to develop accreditation.
At the conference, all delegates have to do is collect their accreditation cards, and the names of delegates cannot be changed at the conference, but branch nominations for leaders can be changed.
At the actual conference, there's a secret vote. So you can never be 100% sure that the people who promised their fellow branch members that they would vote for a particular candidate are really going to vote for that candidate. Also, there is provision in the ANC constitution for candidates to be nominated at the conference. It's very difficult to do that. You can't be nominated as a candidate unless 25% of the delegates support you.
But Dr. Friedman is yet to be convinced that the conference will indeed happen.
There are so many challenges around the country to whether the branches have been chosen legally or not. Some of this may land up in court, some of it may be challenged on the floor of the conference. Secondly, the ANC's other problem may be that if all its branches who it gave votes to do not use those votes, if they haven't nominated candidates by now, then less than 90% of the delegates will be branch delegates. And the Constitution says that 90% have to be branch delegates.
According to the ANC Constitution, the 5-year term of the current leadership ends in December. Should the ANC fail to hold the conference or legitimacy of election of the new leadership be challenged, the current leadership will be illegitimate after December. Ntakwana Ngatani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, says that South Africa wants an ANC that is focused, united and strong. He says the country needs a party that subscribes to the values set out in the Constitution of the country and the African National Congress. Ramaphosa says that it is key to address these issues of poverty, education and unemployment in the country. He also called on the party to root out corruption, including people who are stealing from state-owned enterprises.
Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa says poverty still stalks many South Africans and still wears the face of a black man. He says those who bear the brunt of poverty are blacks. He lambasted those he said are stealing money needed to alleviate such sufferings. There are those who saw an opportunity in state companies. They are stealing. They are doing what we call state capture. They are thieves. They steal. They're destroying Eskom and Transnet. They're stealing money, filling boxes, and the money goes to a few families. Some of it go to Dubai. We want that money. Those who are stealing must face prosecution. Ramaphosa says the majority of the people are still being sidelined in the country's economy and that radical economic transformation must be realized.
We want to speed up radical economic transformation without any fail.
Whether they like it or not, there will be radical economic transformation because our country, the people of our country, must share in the wealth of South Africa.
Like it is stated in the Freedom Charter, the people of our country must share in the wealth of South Africa.
With the relationship within the alliance hitting a low-time low, Ramaphosa praised COSATU for its position on minimum wage.
Next year, May.
Next year, on the 1st of May, the minimum wage law will be implemented. The law says there should be no one in South Africa who earns less than 3,500. It's good work done by COSATU. We thank COSATU.
3,500 rand.
On the leadership of the ANC, he said the country is waiting to accept the leadership, but people are waiting for the ANC to organize and correct itself. He said this will also attract investors to regain the confidence in investing in the country, and that people have not yet lost hope in the ANC. Lehana Tsotetsi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
As the leadership race continues within the African National Congress, political parties continue to campaign in Imetsimaholo, or local municipality in Sasolburg, at the weekend ahead of Wednesday's municipal election, which will pit the African National Congress against its own alliance partner, the South African Communist Party. Now, the ANC failed to convince its long-term ally to withdraw from a meeting at the Alliance Political Council that was convened a week ago, and the SACP is now contesting all 21 wards. The municipality's coalition government was dissolved earlier this year after it failed to adopt its 2017-18 budget. Now, for more on the developments ahead of Wednesday, we now cross live to Ntakwana Ngatani, who's on the ground there. Very good morning to you. And during an earlier crossing here on SABC, we heard that the SACP members were raising concerns about the ANC leadership in the province. Tell us more, Ntakwana.
Well, Elvis, according to the SACP, part of the issues that they have with how the ANC has been handling the municipality was the firing of workers here. And the SACP is saying that its main objective is to ensure that the working class in South Africa are taken care of, and therefore that went against its core mandate as a party, and so they've decided that among other issues, the fact that the SACP, or rather the ANC, lost control of Metsimaholo. Now, if we look at the 2011 elections, the ANC had 26 of the 42 seats of this municipality. And in the 2016 government elections, they lost ground. They ended up at 19 seats, resulting in the EFF, the DA, the Freedom Front Plus, as well as the Metsimaholo Civic Association forming a coalition. That government was eventually collapsed in July this year. Now, when we look at who is contesting this election, we see that, as you said, we spoke to the SACP earlier on, the ANC is contesting, the EFF is contesting, the DA is contesting, the Congress of the People is contesting, as well as the Metsimaholo Civic Association. But we got on the campaign trail, and we've been speaking to some of the campaigners who have less than 48 hours to go to the election on Wednesday, and they've been telling us what it is that they're hoping to get. Now, let's find out what the EFF is promising the voters here in Metsimaholo.
We promised the voters the good services that we are going to give. For a very long time, they've been complaining about the services in Metsimaholo. Now, we know that once the EFF is in government in Metsimaholo, is going to make sure that the life of ordinary people are going to change for the better. People are going to get electricity, people are going to get houses, people are going to get better streets than what we see. Some of the streets here, they are like swimming pools. So that is what we are going to do to change the lives of the people for the better. The young people are going to get employment because we've got a social firm here. We're supposed to make sure that it invests in terms of job creation to the young people, particularly those that have graduated and those that are still trying in their life.
But perhaps you can tell us why it is that the government, the coalition government that you had with the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and the Metsimaholo Civic Association actually failed.
Let us put it into proper context. We were never in coalition with any of the parties that we have just mentioned. We just said that whatever that we think it is in favor of our people, will support any party. That's why we didn't even take any position in the Metsimaholo Council. So we're not in coalition with anyone. So in that one, I can just say that really the EFF, we want to take this municipality so that we can run it alone, because we could see that those that were in coalition, Metsimaholo Civic Association in particular, it has actually robbed the people of Metsimaholo. Now, the people of Metsimaholo, they must actually decide to give the EFF the powers to govern this municipality so that we can change the situation for the better.
In the event that you don't get the seats that are required for you to go into government alone, who would you say you would be more willing as the EFF to go into a coalition with?
I don't see that happening, because the EFF were doing very well. We had a very good community meetings yesterday, which are sign that we're going to win come Wednesday. So I don't see that thing arises of a coalition government, because the EFF, it will be announced as a leader of this particular municipality.
Well, that is the EFF. Earlier on, we spoke to the SACP. They are of the same view that, in fact, they will win this municipality with an outright majority to ensure that they're in government alone. Here is the economic freedom fighters saying that they are confident also with what they have seen, how they have hit the ground, that they will come out tops and take this municipality on their own. But what I can tell you is that earlier on last week, we saw President Jacob Zuma coming here to meet with his alliance partners. When we spoke to some of them, they said it was a peace offering to say that even though the parties have agreed to contest the election separately, and this is the first time that has ever happened since 1994, that it shouldn't compromise the relations of the alliance. And so at stake, 42 seats of the Metsimaholo municipality, 21 wards, and the other 21 seats will come from proportional representation. Elvis?
Thank you so much for that update. That's our reporter on the ground there, Ntakwana Ngatani, coming to us live from Sasolburg. We'll bring you some more of that a little bit later. But meanwhile, Uhuru Kenyatta will be sworn in for a second term as Kenya's president tomorrow. The final act of an electoral saga that exposed deep and lasting divisions within that country. Now, his inauguration comes a week after Kenya's Supreme Court validated his poll victory, although the country's political crisis is not over as yet. We cross now live to Sarah Kamani in Nairobi. A very good morning to you, Sarah. Can you tell us what is the mood like in the city ahead of the inauguration tomorrow?
Good morning, Alvis. Indeed, it's a bright and sunny morning here in Nairobi. We are inside the stadium where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be sworn in tomorrow for his second and final term. Preparations getting underway here. Hundreds of people are taking part in the various preparations, whether it is building of the podium, whether it is the soldiers who are going to be mounting the guard of honor, choirs that are going to be singing. When they leave the stadium and get into the city, it is the usual hustle and bustle of a city. A lot of people excited, others apprehensive, because the opposition has also promised to hold a parallel rally to this swearing-in ceremony.
What are you hearing from the stronghold of Raila Odinga? Is there still ongoing disruptions and violence that we've seen when the announcement was made?
Well, former Prime Minister and opposition leader Raila Odinga has announced that tomorrow, as Uhuru Kenyatta is being sworn in here, he will be holding a parallel rally and he will be holding prayers for at least 19 people who have been killed in clashes between the police and his supporters during protests against Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election and protests on Friday last week when he was getting back into the country. Now, the police have said that that rally is illegal and that the only official ceremony that will be taking place tomorrow is the swearing in of Uhuru Kenyatta, which will be happening here. So indeed, a lot of people are apprehensive that tomorrow there will be a face-off again between Odinga's supporters and the police.
Is there any talks, have you heard any talks between government and the opposition party in order to make this a transitional government or perhaps a government of national unity?
Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta has said that he is willing to hold talks with Raila Odinga, but he says that those talks will be within the constitution. Now, if you have the reading of a political analyst in Kenya, then that tells you that President Kenyatta will not be going for any form of transitional government or any form of government of national unity or a coalition government. And especially because there was the case that came in August against Uhuru Kenyatta's election that was thrown. His election was thrown out. Another election was held on October the 26th. A petition was lodged and Uhuru Kenyatta was declared winner and his re-election was upheld by the Supreme Court. So he says that he's legally elected, and so what he wants to do, he says, is to continue with his second term. He, however, says he's willing to work with the opposition within the law. Raila Odinga, on the other hand, is standing his ground. He's saying any dialogue that he's going to have with the President Kenyatta will be for another election within 90 days once the dialogue starts. So the country really at a standoff in terms of that. But Kenyatta says he's ready to begin his second and final term.
And just briefly, Sarah, what are you hearing from people on the ground? Are they very excited about this? And is there sort of an acceptance now that Kenyatta is the president?
Yeah, excitement has been building, as you can imagine. A lot of people tired because the country has been politicking since January, and now it is time to swear in Uhuru Kenyatta, and the country hopefully can move on from there. But of course, a lot of them also wondering if indeed the economy will again rise and whether the country can get the politics of the whole year behind them and unite around the president, who is supposed to be a uniting factor, and move ahead as a country.
Thank you so much, Sarah Kamani. That's our East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kamani, coming to us live from Nairobi. There you can see some of the pictures in the background there, getting ready for that inauguration. That's tomorrow in Kenya. On a positive note for South Africa, Miss South Africa, Demi Lee Nell Peters, has been crowned Miss Universe. The 22-year-old business management graduate edged out her rivals from Colombia and Jamaica to take the crown. Now, she's the second South African to win the Miss Universe pageant after Margaret Gardner, who took the crown in 1978, almost 40 years. Nearly 100 women from around the globe took part in the 66th Miss Universe pageant, which was held in Las Vegas in the United States. And that is why we're asking you this question, a very important question for all of us here in South Africa, to get some positivity back in the country. What are your congratulatory messages to Miss Universe Demi Lee Nell Peters? Let's take a look at what you are telling me in the meantime on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom, as well as on the Facebook page. This one coming from Kenneth Malachi says, "It's about time. The world knows what we have in store." Congratulations to her. She continues to paint a good picture of South Africa and motivate the upcoming youth to follow in her steps and even more. So says Kenneth. Lachasa says, Miss Universe 2017-18, I am so proud to see young women representing the whole of Africa. I'm calling on the youth to stop relying on boyfriends and stand for themselves. So says Lachasa. Don't depend on your boyfriend. Now this one from Nazim says, congratulations to her. She has put our flag on another level of this world. Now those are some of your comments. I'll read some more as they come in, but let's now take a look at what's happening on social media. The newly crowned Miss Universe 2018, Demi Lee Nell Peters, says that she hopes that she's made South Africa proud. She's only the second South African to win the pageant after Margaret Gardner took the crown in '78. In her acceptance speech in Las Vegas, she said that she was proud to have won and hoped that the platform would give her the opportunity to make a difference. Miss Colombia has been crowned first princess, and Miss Jamaica was the second princess. Hashtag Miss Universe. This one from Mthokozizi Ndaba says the police have confirmed Idol's SA runner-up, that Mthokozizi Ndaba. You remember him? He's been accused of allegedly assaulting a young woman in a Joburg flat on Saturday morning. Now, the pictures of the alleged abuse were making rounds on social media on Saturday with an image of the alleged victim's bloody lip and what appeared to be a chipped tooth going viral. That's on the eve of 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children, because that is the campaign that government started now, and it officially kicked off this weekend, and this happened on the weekend. Can you believe it? Social Development Minister Batabile Dlamini has urged the victims of gender-based violence to use the department's toll-free helpline for support. Dlamini says that victims of abuse who call the toll-free number, the 24-hour line, by the way, will get immediate counseling from social workers. The gender-based command center can be reached on this number, 0800 428 428. I'll repeat that number, 0800 428 428. Hashtag 16 Days of Activism 2017. Now, a picture of the day comes from Demi Lee Nell Peters. Yes, she tweeted, and she says, South Africa, thank you for your support and love throughout my hashtag Miss Universe journey. I may be the new Miss Universe, but I will always be your Miss South Africa. We did it. Almost sounds like Sam Nujoma, who says, they did it in Namibia or in Mozambique. They did it in Botswana. They did it in Zimbabwe. Why can we not did it here in Namibia? Well, the comment of the day comes from Edmund Joyous Nati. Says, men who raise their hands on women never raised them in a class. Now that is based on Mthokozizi that assaulted his girlfriend. Hashtag 16 Days of Activism 2017. So that means you never picked up your hand in class, but you did it against your woman. In our courts today, in the Western Cape, we start off there. The trial of the triple axe murder accused Henry van Breda resumed in the High Court in Cape Town. Neurologist Dr. James Butler is expected to take the stand. Now, he diagnosed van Breda with juvenile myoclonic epilepsy. Now, van Breda spent a weekend in a hospital where several tests were conducted after suffering a seizure. Back here in Gauteng, the former Higher Education Deputy Minister, you remember him, Mduduzi Manana, two co-accused, Cyril Madonsela and Tulani Mdaka, are expected to be sentenced in the Randburg Magistrates Court. These two pleaded guilty to 2 counts of assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm in October. This followed their involvement in that assault of 3 women at a Johannesburg nightclub. Last month, Manana was fined 100,000 rand for assaulting the women. Now, in Limpopo, or rather in Polokwane, The High Court there is expected to pass judgment in the murder case of 2 men found in possession of a human head. DNA tests linked the head of a 17-year-old girl, Nthabiseng Mosomani, but we will keep you updated on all these cases as they develop here on the Newsroom. So you have to stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. Now tonight, Special Assignment Edition will be presented by Aldrin Sampier of SABC News Live from Sasolburg in the Free State. You heard the report there from our reporter on the ground earlier. Now this is where the political parties continue to campaign in the Metsimaholo local municipality in Sasolburg at the weekend ahead of Wednesday's municipal election, which will pit the ANC against its own alliance partner, the South African Communist Party. It's going to be interesting to watch. You don't want to miss it. Channel 404, this is where you have to be tonight. Let's move on now. Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba recently said in Parliament that South Africa would pursue the nuclear build program at a pace and a scale that the government could afford. In his maiden medium-term budget policy statement last month, Gigaba suggested South Africa had neither planned for spending on nuclear nor could we afford it. It is estimated that the nuclear build program could cost 1 trillion rand.
Nuclear remains part of the energy mix. At one point, I mean, at the present moment, Eskom has about 5,700 megawatts of excess electricity. That is 900 megawatts bigger than the biggest power station in South Africa, which is Medupi, which, when it is fully commissioned, it will be operating at 4,800. And Medupi is the 4th largest power station in the world. So we have excess electricity at the present moment because the economy is growing slowly, the demand is low, there aren't big intensive users that are taking up the electricity that is being generated on a daily basis by Eskom. Now, because of that, because of the slow growth in the economy, we need to keep on emphasizing that we're not going to take decisions which are going to adversely affect the economy. That's why the important point that the president made in May, on the 31st of May this year, and that I have also been repeating, is not only the pace and scale that the fiscus can afford, but the pace and scale that the economy, that the country can afford. So at what point we will decide that we now are ready, that there is such a high demand and uptake of electricity that we need baseload electricity of a renewable energy form in order to meet the needs of the economy and the country, I think will depend on on how quickly can we get the economy to grow at 3 or 5% going forward.
Now, we believe that government is reportedly fast-tracking the controversial nuclear deal, which is expected to cost South Africa in the region of that trillion rand. Allegations is that the officials of Department of Energy are working overtime and on weekends to finalize the country's reviewed integrated energy resource plan 4 months ahead of schedule. Question is why? The plan to determine the energy mix the country needs was expected to be finalized only in February next year, 2018. But will now be finished before the end of November. In April this year, the High Court in Cape Town set aside the 2 determinations issued by government which laid the basis for the nuclear procurement plan as unlawful and unconstitutional. 2 international anti-nuclear activists who visited South Africa, the Russian activist Vladimir Shlivyak, as well as the American activist Chris Williams, emphasized the need for the country to distance itself from nuclear energy and said that renewable energy was the way of the future. Joining us now from the Department of Physics at the University of Johannesburg is Professor Hartmut Winkler. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Morning. Thanks.
Now, Professor, what do you think is government's motive behind finishing this push ahead of the nuclear, ahead of February next year to now November for the nuclear energy program?
I cannot really see any good motive for this, and I think that the suspicions that have arisen as a result are going to threaten whatever the nuclear people are actually hoping for. This is not the way to go about with what would be really a major investment for the country, especially if the very latest studies are actually suggesting that we don't need to take any decision about nuclear, not now, not even for the next 40 years or so. That's roughly, until then, we are covered. And I think that's increasingly being showed. So to go into something which is clearly going to commit us not only to a huge amount of money, but to long-term repayments and to some sort of an energy strategy, which in the future might actually no longer be relevant. It to me sounds like madness. Yes. So I mean, I have my views about what might be behind this, but I think I'd rather leave this for other people to figure out here.
Sounds like a conspiracy theory, though. But the electricity consumption in South Africa has been growing rapidly since 1980. We've seen rolling blackouts a number of years ago. It has stabilized now. Now, that could be said that Medupi, as well as Kusile, the coal-fired power stations, that sort of lessened the burden. But the question then is, do we then really need nuclear power?
No, we certainly don't, especially because only a small part of Medupi has now come online. Kusile is still coming up. There's also a long-term plan to grow the renewable sector, even though that's now been put on hold, again, for reasons that I don't think are entirely valid. Those would quite easily cover the country for the immediate future. And not only then, there's, as a result, no need to rush into anything like nuclear. At the moment, the whole question of nuclear is highly controversial. And the worst thing, I think, is how the whole thing was introduced. It was introduced on a political level without following the due processes. And that's also why the court ruled the process as it had been handled until now as improper. Now, this latest ministerial reshuffle has been speculated, and I think correctly so, as being a drive by government to fast-track this nuclear program. Now, that is immediately is not the way you should be going about things. We don't want a situation where the country lands in a whole lot of debt right now or commits itself to something as big as that and something that they regret 5 years later. Because getting out of something like that, yes, you can do it, but you've wasted a lot of money in the meantime.
Now, Koeberg has proven that nuclear can work and that it can give you returns in the long run, not immediately. So then the question is, what options are available to South Africa, Professor, in relation to our energy mix?
Right. Being a country that's very rich in especially solar power, but also in wind, this is a sector that we need to grow. Now, this is happening in countries which don't have nearly as much of that resource as we do. Yet if we add it all up right now, as much as people are talking a lot about solar and wind, the actual fraction that this forms of our current energy mix right now is really minute. We should be looking at a situation where this renewable energy sector, the energy coming from that grows to something close to 50% of what we have in the country. Now, we're not seeing that right now, but this is certainly the way the rest of the world is going right now.
There was a lot of talk that renewable energy is very expensive and that we can't really afford it. Is that still the case, though?
No, no. That is true as far as the very first few builds. When one looks at what Eskom is currently paying for that, that is indeed expensive. But with every bid after that, the prices have gone down, and quite drastically. At the moment, we're seeing a situation where in some countries in the world, the price that people are selling solar electricity for has come down by even half to what the very latest South African plants are being built. So I'm convinced that that's trend, well, doesn't even have to continue. I mean, this makes solar way, way cheaper than coal and certainly nuclear.
Now, the Cape Town High Court declared all nuclear procurement processes unlawful and unconstitutional. What next then, and what should the program be that government should follow, seeing that they're now fast-tracking this process?
Yes, well, one of the things is, yes, they do need an energy plan, so that's correct. Now, already we had the draft of this energy plan that's supposed to come out last year. And the view there was we don't need any nuclear until 2037. Now, okay, as you can imagine, a lot of people were not happy with that, including, for example, that it underestimated how much solar is actually possible. They put an artificial limit on that. So I'm pretty convinced if the same study was done again properly, we would have even less of a requirement on nuclear, and that's indeed what a study by Eskom is showing now. So this rush to change things, well, we'll see what comes out, but everybody's suspicion is that miraculously now nuclear is going to appear as a necessary and given, and that's going to lead to problems.
Well, the good news is that Eskom has finally signed now the deals with the independent power producers, which signals a move to renewable energy. Is that enough, though?
No, because this is really where we should have been 2 or 3 years ago. We haven't come close to finishing what was originally allocated 7 years ago 2 renewables. This is just one round. That's just the way the process works. Every year or so there'll be a new round. Now this round we've been waiting for now for something of the order of 3 years. Okay, now finally, hopefully this is now going to happen, but we should be moving on from that. We haven't we're close to exhausting what even the plan from 2010 said we should go as far as solar and wind is concerned. We still have a long way to go to.
Another excuse from Eskom was that they have enough power right now, and that's why they didn't want to sign the independent power producers deal. So where to from here, Professor, for the country as a whole? In the long run, do you see that nuclear still can be part and parcel of our power mix, so to speak? And can we afford it later, not now?
No, I think right now, okay, Koeberg is clearly going to carry on running for a while.
Yes.
But as far as bringing in new power stations, I really don't think that we should be looking at that. We should be reassessing the situation in about 10 years' time. We have got more than enough time for that, and do proper planning and work on that basis and work on the model which is most suitable for the country.
There is a sense that nuclear is, renewables are going to get more expensive because government want to tax us now as consumers if you have a generator or solar power on your roof. Thoughts on that?
Well, yes, you can always tax things, but that's a way for government to drive policy ultimately. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. It's what's done in some other countries, but ultimately you can still when it comes down to everything, you're still going to find that solar and wind are the cheapest technologies at the moment. That's including all the building and decommissioning costs.
Well, it seems like they still want to hold the monopoly into Eskom, you see. That's probably the thing. Professor, thank you so much for your time and joining us here in studio. Of course, there you have it. That's our discussion and, of course, our focus point this morning from the Department of Physics at the University of Johannesburg is Professor Hartmut Winkler. Now, tonight's special assignment edition will once again be presented by Aldrin Sampier of SABC News live from Sasolburg in the Free State. Very important one, this, because this is where the political parties will continue to campaign in the Metsimaholo local municipality in Sasolburg at the weekend. That's ahead of Wednesday's municipal election, which will pit the ANC against its own alliance partner, the SACP. Let's take a short break, and after that we return with a debate on the question whether or not we need nuclear power in South Africa.
Marco. Bolo.
2 weeks earlier.
Gentlemen, welcome to our pub. Castle.
Share a castle, make some new friends.
It takes patience and the finest ingredients to craft a milk stout of superior quality that is made to be savored by the most refined palate. Castle Milk Stout. Savor your richness.
Nuclear energy in South Africa is a very contentious issue, and this continues, of course. The decision on whether to proceed with the construction of a fleet of nuclear power plants is destined to become the financially most far-reaching and consequential defining moment of the Jacob Zuma presidency. Now, there is widespread public mistrust of the nuclear expansion process. Its roots lie in the extraordinary announcement in 2014 that the Russian nuclear agency, you remember them, Rosatom, they secured the rights to build the new South African nuclear power plants. South African government played down that announcement, claiming that it was inaccurate. But one thing for sure is that electricity consumption in South Africa has been growing rapidly since the 1980s, and we need alternatives. Now, to take the matter further, we're joined in studio by the Managing Director of Nuclear Industry Association of South Africa, NIASA, Mr. Knox Msebenzi. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And from the Campaign for Just Energy Future, we have Pooven Moodley. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, first and foremostly, we are conducting a poll today and would like to test, you know, South Africans and as well as people on the continent to find out whether or not we need energy or nuclear energy for that matter in South Africa. And this is what the poll suggests. If we can put it up here so the gentleman can see it. If you can see it, there are 317 votes in. There are 66% of people that are suggesting that we do not need nuclear energy, and only 34% is in agreement. Let me start off with you. Knox, your thoughts on that?
If we ran a poll today about capital punishment, you probably find that the majority of people say we don't have to. Yes. The problem with these polls that are based on public opinion, on basically poisoned information.
Okay.
The narrative out there says nuclear equals corruption, nuclear equals a lot of money and so on. Who would want that? And that's not true. So yes, I accept that the poll would say that, and I would expect that to happen. Just like I would expect people to say no to, to say bring back the death penalty.
Yes. Proven?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of money is being spoken about in terms of what this nuclear deal could cost the country.
Yes.
I think it's important to ask people because there hasn't been discussion and debate, and that's really important to solicit the views of ordinary people. So I would suggest, why don't we have a referendum in the country to say, let's put it out to people to see whether they think, you know, this is the way to go for the future. And I think let's hear what people have got to say, because we haven't opened up the debate.
So, Knox, let me test you on this. Why or why not should South Africa pursue nuclear energy?
We need it. We absolutely need it. If we are serious about reducing our dependence on coal for power generation, we would need to replace a lot of the coal power plants with equivalent technology in terms of baseload technology. We are not saying that we don't need renewables. We're not saying we don't need gas. We need the whole mix of energy. But for us to think about replacing 40 gigawatts of power generated in Mpumalanga with power that depends on the sun during the day and whether the wind is blowing or not, we've got a thing coming, because you cannot run an industry based on that.
Proven, why don't we need it?
I think it's too expensive. We can't afford it. Minister of Finance, you know, during the budget and after the budget speech made it very clear we can't afford it. We're in massive crisis in terms of economics. But also, if you have technologies like renewables that are coming on stream much cheaper, even the nuclear industry globally is saying renewables are now cheaper than nuclear. Why should we go for old technologies when there are other technologies available that are more affordable and, you know, will reach people across the country?
What would you say is the pros for nuclear power, and why is it so important? Because you talk about baseload technology, but that baseload technology, some would argue that we have currently enough when we look at Medupi, Kusile, in terms of coal power fire stations that could last us for another 40 years.
When you do a plan for your economy, you do not plan for today. There's no point in planning for today, you plan for the future. We have got people, men and women, who are professionals at doing this. We have been doing this work for a very long time and looking at what energy mix we need. We're actually talking about IRP 2010 to 2030. That is a 20-year planning horizon. There are countries that plan for 50 years. If we have knee-jerk reaction of saying, today we've got load shedding, let's start looking around to see if we can build a power plant. That's not how to plan a sophisticated economy such as ours.
But Eskom already indicated that they have enough power for now.
For now.
Yes.
For now. When we start building the nuclear power plants, we will only see them on stream in years to come.
When will they come on stream if we have to implement now?
If we implement now, there is a range of times, depending on the technology and so on. There are countries that have been able to put nuclear power plants on stream within 5 years. There are countries, particularly in the West, that have been taking quite a long time to do that. Japan is on record. It's 54 nuclear power plants, some of which were stopped after Fukushima, and they're now bringing them back on. None of them were over budget or overstretched in terms of time. So this theory that nuclear power plants are always over budget and are always late, it is not true. Yes, it is true in some instances. Just like anything else, if you don't plan your project properly, it will go over budget and it might take too long.
But Bhuvan, there are countries that's doing away with nuclear power, such as Germany, even France. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear what's happening in the world. If you look at across Europe, the trend is towards renewables, and it's pretty clear why. There's many arguments. But more importantly for me, it's the state of our country, right? If government is saying the 3 priorities for the country is unemployment, poverty, and inequality, you'd do things for the economy that would reverse some of that. So China, for example, is investing $366 billion over the next few years on renewables, creating 14 million jobs. In order to end poverty by 2020. So, why is it in a country like South Africa, where poverty and unemployment is such a massive issue, that we'd go for very old technology, that doesn't take us into the future, and it doesn't make, sense.
Knox, there is also the other issue of waste disposal as well as cost. And of course duration. You talked about being on time with some of these projects, which some of them have never really been on time. Talk to me about that, and is that a concern, especially when it comes to waste disposal after the fact?
Waste disposal is an issue that has been well taken care of, and we have got international watchdog called the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is satisfied. By the way, before you can get a nuclear license to build, you need to demonstrate to the regulator, the national nuclear regulator, as to what you're going to do with the nuclear waste. We don't have a problem. We don't have a crisis at Quebec. We have got a waste disposal site in Valpus, which is in the Northern Cape.
Where is it, underground?
It's partly underground, and part of the low-level waste is actually overground. Yes, it's partly underground, yes.
That could lead to contamination?
No.
Not?
Environmental impact assessments studies have been done by experts who know what they're doing. There is no aquifer in that region, so that contamination that we're talking about, and that is an area that has been carefully chosen because of its low rainfall aspect. There is no farming in that area. It's actually a desert. It's part of the Karoo. So there's no issue there.
Yes. On the other hand, Bhuvan, some would suggest and argue that South Africa needs an integrated energy mix, that we shouldn't just rely on coal-fired power stations and renewable energy for that matter. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we need a transition, right, from where we are. Coal is definitely really bad for the environment, as all of us know, and we need to transition. We need to transition responsibly. We can't just close everything down and start new things. But we need a responsible transition. But in that kind of thinking about where to go forward, you'd go for the best possible option. It's not a question of let's throw everything into a bag. And if you ask children from 2 or 3 generations from now, whether the gift of nuclear waste is better than inheriting a earth that's clean and that one can inhabit, the answer is pretty clear.
The process to acquire nuclear was declared unconstitutional. What's the process moving forward now?
The minister, even the previous minister, they were just left the department now, is on record as having said we will respect the findings of the court and we will follow the processes. So basically, and I need to correct this perception that the courts said nuclear is not a good thing for us. They simply said the processes, the ticking of the boxes in terms of informing Parliament. The case was never about whether or not we need nuclear power in this country. But the narrative that is being put to the public is that the courts, even the courts have found that nuclear is bad news for us. So if you do carry a referendum today without educating the public, you are likely to find results that are not good for the country. Nuclear is simply the best way for us to exit our carbon emissions in a responsible manner.
Gentlemen, I could talk to you the entire day, but we've run out of time. We're almost at the top of the hour. That was Anox Mzebenzi. He's the managing director of Nuclear Industry Association of South Africa, as well as from Just Energy for the Future. We have Pavan Moody. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio. Well, that's what we got to leave it for now. We won't even take a break, I believe. We're going to go straight to the top of the hour. Well, of course, it is that day, Monday. It's a blue Monday, and we say good morning to you once again. Now, remember, the focus today is on nuclear power, and we also want to get your thoughts on Miss South Africa, which is now Miss Universe. Demi Lee Nel-Peters has been, of course, crowned Miss Universe, and she's the second South African to win the pageant after Margaret Gardner, who took the crown in 1978. So the question we ask you today is, what are your congratulatory messages to Demi Lee Nel-Peters? In fact, she's the third African. Remember Michelle McLean? She was from Namibia. She became a naturalized South African later. She also won the crown. So third African on the continent. So let's take a look at what you are telling us. This one coming from, let's put it on the screen there. Lachasa says, she really deserves that, says Lachasa Batlamolo. This one from Charm said, wow, wonderful. She deserves it all. And those are some of them. We'll come back to the others a little bit later, but we're also conducting that poll. You just had the debate, or we just had the debate. We want to ask you, looking at government fast-tracking that controversial nuclear deal expected to cost South Africans in the region of R1 trillion. Department of Energy officials are allegedly working overtime to finalize the country's reviewed integrated energy resource plan to determine that energy mix for the country. So we're asking you, do we need nuclear energy in South Africa? There are the numbers. 357 votes in. 66% of you in South Africa and on the continent of Africa are suggesting no, we don't need it. Only 34% is in agreement. So let's take a look at what you are telling me about that question. Dipansu says, with all the good environment we have for renewable energy, no, we don't need it. Germany is getting rid of any nuclear-related stuff, and we want to start such an uncertain and dangerous venture? Renewable energy is the answer, not nuclear. So says Dipansu. Next up is Tabatsu. Tabatsu says, we cannot discount the need for energy in a developing country. It fosters and sustains development. Let's not confuse our detest of the acquirers and their corruption with that of what is being acquired. We need nuclear energy in South Africa for the short and the long run. Well, there's a balanced view from Depatso there, so let me know what's on your mind. We'll take a look at that and all your questions. But Marumo Kakana is standing by because he's got a sporting question for you.
And of course, Elvis, for our sports question, we are asking, what was your sporting highlight over the weekend? So, of course, it's been an interesting one. This one coming in from Hazim, saying that SABC, hashtag SABC News, Baroka versus Platinum Stars. I saw some of the best goals of the week scored there. This one from Michael Kave, saying that boring withdraws, hashtag PSL Soccer. And of course, we'll come with stories that making headlines in the world of sports later on during the sports bulletin. But first, we'll hand you over to Elvis with the headlines.
Suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director Dr. Makhoba Manamela is expected to face more grilling this morning when the Life Isidimeni arbitration hearings resume. The ANC presidential race hots up with the ruling party in the Western Cape choosing the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa as its preferred candidate to be ANC president after the December conference.
Miss Universe is South Africa!
On a positive note, Miss South Africa, Demi Lee Nel-Peters has been crowned Miss Universe. Well, that's what we have for you coming up. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Rumo Kakana what's happening on the sports front.
Of course, in a weekend full of draws, the Buccaneers, Orlando Pirates, collected maximum points against Siwelele Bloemfontein Celtic out in Bloemfontein yesterday. Pirates is the only team that won its match over the weekend. The Democratic Republic of Congo Giants, TP Mazembe, successfully defended their CAF Confederations Cup title. Mazembe played to a goalless draw against Matsatsansa Apitori Supersport United, but won the tie by 2-1 on aggregate.
I don't know.
Diboge Springboks registered a comprehensive victory against Italy. This and more later on during the Sports Bulletin. We hand you over to Elvis with the headlines.
Thank you, Maruma. Our top story this hour. Suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director Dr. Makgoba Manamela is expected to face further cross-examination today at the Life Esidimeni hearings here in Cape Town. I beg your pardon, in Johannesburg. Now, on Friday, Manamela refused to accept that she did not have the powers to sign off licenses for NGOs that receive mentally ill patients. Now, this was after the Legal Aid SA's Lila Kraus tried to get a concession from Manamela based on the Health Minister Aaron Motsoledi's letter that was presented in Parliament that all licenses were unlawful. 143 patients subsequently died at these NGOs. Manamela has already been on the witness stand for 3 days. Retired Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Mosoneke reminded her to avail herself again today. Now, we'll go there live to the arbitration process in a short while as soon as we can establish that link, and we'll go there to bring you the latest. Meanwhile, the Gauteng Department of Health has appointed an intervention team to help it deal with its troubles. The appointment comes after what the department calls critical inadequacies in running the health system. The 5-man team will focus on managerial as well as financial issues.
The team will be headed by Wits orthopedic professor, Professor Mkhululi Lukhele. He'll be joined by Professor Craig Housam, Dr. Edith Mtla, Ms. Nomvula Marawa, and former National Treasury Director General Michael Sachs. Sachs will be tasked with sorting out the department's financial challenges. The department's finances are in dire straits as it faces multiple lawsuits and struggles to pay suppliers.
Michael Sachs will assume his responsibility in the province on the 1st of December. The team that the minister is going to go through will assume its responsibility on the 1st of December. We call it an intervention team because the state of affairs in the department requires a high caliber urgent intervention team that is put. That's why some of the people are recalled. People who have a good track record are recalled from retirement to help us stabilize the system, stabilize it financially, but turn its performance around.
The team will also deal with procurement and governance issues.
To clean up the whole procurement system and demand management, as well as payment of suppliers, financial management, to clean up and align the whole departmental financial systems and audit control. Number 4, maintenance of equipment and refurbishment of infrastructure, to look into delegations of CEOs and heads of hospitals and other health facilities as far as maintenance of equipment and infrastructure is concerned.
It will also establish whether the challenges faced by the department are linked to corruption. Mahla Kukomane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Talking about a high-quality intervention team to look at the health system here in Gauteng. Now, the suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director, Dr. Makgoba Manamela, is expected to face further cross-examination today at the Life Esidimeni hearings here in Parktown, Johannesburg. Let's go there live because she's currently on the stand.
But some of the information that you are directing to me, I can't remember them unless I see them.
Okay, I'm going to move on from that, except to say that the information provided is that 36 patients had died at that stage, whereas we know much more have died. Why is that information was wrong?
Can I explain that? Like I said in this proceedings, and I also said to the ombudsman that at the time when we prepared that legislature question, we had 36 patients who died, and we were only looking at the people because the question was say from Life Esidimeni project. So because of that, we look at those who died from May, June, July, and August. So these are the numbers that we gave. But if we were told that everyone who was sent, who sent to life to the NGO or to hospital, let's get the number, there was nothing that will hide, because we'll inform the NGO and the district that will inform the NGO, and then we get all the data. But that is what was asked, and we look at placement period. And that is not the same period that the ombudsman and you are referring me to, because it was period from March, while we look at the period from May, June.
I'm just going to put it again to you, Dr. Melamela. If you were in proper control, you would have known that this move caused more people to die. Do you agree with me?
I was in a proper control, and I don't dispute that. But the timelines, we need to look at the timelines.
Now, I'm going to move on the timeline. In October, the Umbud became involved. Do you agree? To October 2016.
That's correct.
At that stage, you must have known something big is wrong. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, in the time that the Umbud was busy with his report, until it was released in February, 30 more people had died. What did you do to ensure that no more people die?
There are a lot of things that I believe we have done, although because I didn't have time to prepare for this question that I didn't know. But what I can tell you is that once one patient died, we never fold our hands and say they're dying or patient died. We had to find out. I asked the board member to assist us in investigating the death. We developed a rigorous program to go to the NGOs where deaths were reported and to find out. And again, we also have to say those NGOs where we think there are challenges, we can move them or we can move the patient.
Why didn't you move the patients? 30 more people died after you were aware that there's a huge problem.
We did move some of the patients, but we didn't know who's going to die at that time. But we tried our best to move the patient. We tried our best to ensure that the clinicians around the NGO are visiting the NGO, to an extent that I also went back to the board and say, clinicians who are board members, because they were also working before they are board members, they worked at Life Esidimeni. I asked them to say, Mama Sondo, can we allow this clinician to go to this NGO and assess the patient on our behalf? So we didn't fold our hands. And
why do you have to get the consent of Ms. Nsondo to do your work?
She is the board chairperson. She cannot just see the board people left without her knowing. And fortunate or to tell the truth, she never had problems, and then she released the doctors.
Dr. Malamela, why was it necessary to get Ms. Nsondo to do the work that you were supposed to do?
She was not doing the work that I was supposed to do. It was said here that the board felt the report to me. I had to ask her. She was the chairperson of the board. If we need legal advice, we'll go through Mrs. Masondo. That's how government works. If we need clinician, we'll go through her, ask her to release the people.
I'm going to leave that for legal argument, because that is just wrong. What I want to put to you, after the report came out on the 1st of February, you still had 15 days in office before you were suspended. And in that time, further patients died. Why didn't you at that stage stop the dying, made a plan to stop the dying?
I think the plan was there already. The plan was there.
Doctor, I must just put it to you to finalize this point. You had opportunity to speak out over a long period, and you did not. Just yes or no?
Through justice, you said I had opportunity to speak out.
Yes, we went through the timeline
yes.
now, and we showed you that
you...
let me finish. Okay. You asked, and I'm telling you, I showed you on the timeline all the times that you had the opportunity to speak out, even to the legislature, and you didn't.
You know, it's just a pity. You said I didn't, and you were not with us. I don't know who reported that I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just went to the office and go home. That's the implication I get now, and that is untrue.
Dr. Melamela, I want to put it to you, if you'd spoken out, people would not have died.
I don't know how I should answer that question.
Okay.
Because it appears that according to the question, I just kept quiet all the time. Yet we had meetings, yet we were in pain, yet we reported. But you are saying, if I spoke out, I don't know what I should have spoken out.
You should have told when you prepared the questions for the legislators, say people are dying. You should have told the MEC, people are dying, stop this now.
I don't understand what makes you to think I didn't say anything. I don't understand.
You said that. Okay, let us continue. You also had the time.
Let's try again. You don't ask questions. Just listen to the question. We must make progress. Listen to the question and answer. Your question is, why did you not say anything? You could say, I have said this, and give us the details of what you said, okay? Don't shout back at council. I'd like you to listen to the question and answer it, please. Proceed, council.
Thank you. We've also, through the timeline, showed that you did not listen to what was being said to you. And I want to put it to you, had you listened, people's lives would have been saved. What do you say to that?
I will say I was not the decision maker for the program. So that is why, whether I say it or not, I was not making the final decision. People were doing the shadow MEC was also there, and the MEC was receiving the memorandum. And
the question is, you did not listen. Just deal with that, please. You're all over the show. Just deal with that, please.
I listened. I gave my time to listen to what people were saying.
Dr. Melamela, even now in November 2017, you are still not prepared to speak out against what has happened. What do you say to that?
I'm prepared to speak out. That's why I'm here.
But you're deflecting and you're denying. Isn't that so?
What I deny is what I don't know, or what I know is not correct.
Doctor, I want to put it to you that your attitude is not bringing the truth to this commission. What do you say to that?
That's how you perceive me, because I know what I went through, and some of you were not there. And now, if that's how you perceive it, there's nothing more I can say. And I will ask myself, I'm here to assist, but it's like the decision is taken already about my submission.
I'm also wanting to put it to you that your attitude is not bringing closure to the families. Do you want to answer that?
I still don't agree because I'm telling you what I know, and it's difficult for me to be telling you what you want to know. It's difficult maybe because I'm just telling you what I know and what I know we did during the process.
I'm also putting it to you that your attitude is not bringing healing. What do you say to that?
I don't agree.
Doctor, I just want to speak to you about the people that went missing in this whole marathon project. Now, a lot of our people that we represent will come and testify that the mental health care user went missing for a period from a few days to 3 months. Can you deny that that had happened?
Through justice, can I just get it clear whether they went missing from our NGO or went missing from hospital or from Life SABC?
Sorry, doctor, the question wasn't clear. Can I just make it clear? That for a period of a few days to about 3 months, some of them did not know where the mental health care user was being kept. And I'm sorry for the ineloquent put of that question.
That one I know about it.
And the reason for that is that there was not proper communication.
I guess so.
Yes. And that caused stress and harm to the families and the mental health care users. You agree?
I agree, but can I qualify it?
Angithi besivumelene ukuthi Nina, you're not going to heckle, please. Nam ndiyatineka from time to time. Bafuneka ngizibambe njengani, okay? So ngiyacela ukuba nizibambe nani ne. Asikwazi usebenza in a heckling arrangement. Not in an arbitration tribunal, certainly not. Okay, Zamani, can heckle here. Yantela, please. Okay. Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. You wanted to qualify, Doctor?
Yes, Counsel. I told you that at the beginning of our normal process with life, they reported 773 patients that does not have families. That's number one. The other thing was that when department commissioned the high report, high to investigate, they also indicated 59% of the patient doesn't have families. So I'm not saying those who didn't know is because they didn't have families. But I'm just trying to let you understand it might be some of the reason. The second thing that I mentioned was that Life SABC, in our agreement of planning of placement process, they were expected to inform the family that they have contact numbers and before the patient left. And we inform the patient's family when they arrived at us. So those might have been problem as I gave the report last week. Some of them, they say they text, no answer, they phone, no answer. But I know that some of the family members didn't know. And I don't know if they fall within the reasons I gave.
Doctor, I'm just going to not ask you a question further on
Tell
that.
me something. Where can we look at a comprehensive schedule of all mental health care users who were moved from Life SABC to the specific NGOs?
Thank you, Justice. I have given last week the report of those who moved from Randfontein and those who moved from Waverley.
I'm not looking for numbers. I've seen your plan. They are just numbers. Listen to me.
Sorry about my apology.
A long time, and just learn to listen, please. Is there a schedule with names of mental health care users who were at Life Esidimeni and to where they were moved?
Yes, Justice. There is a schedule where they were moved.
With their names?
With their names.
Where do we find that?
It can be in my office.
How was it compiled and by whom?
Okay. The 2 DDs and social workers in each and every area where they were placed, they compiled the schedule and also indicating where they are going and indicating the names of the patients. So and so is at this NGO, so and so went at this NGO. Also, whether they found the family informed or not. So that schedule is there. It should be there in my office. Because
how would anybody then be missing if there's a comprehensive schedule of patients and where they were taken to?
Hey.
How would hundreds be missing?
Justice, I don't know how will they be missing, but I was thinking, I understand that the family never knew where they were, which I admitted that there is a possibility most family didn't know where they were. But that the patients were missing, 100 patients were missing, that one I was not aware, Justice.
How do we get this schedule you're talking about?
We can ask from the department, from my office, because they were reporting to me those schedules every day. If people will go to El Shaddai, will know the names, that this so and so many patients went to El Shaddai today. Just like that, they went to Dagalan, so many went to this place.
Not how so many, I mean names.
Yes, names.
Of people. Your schedule talks about numbers. I'm talking about breathing and living people who have names, ages, gender. Is there a schedule like that?
Yes, Cancer. Yes, Justice, there is a schedule like that.
And when they died, why didn't you know of it?
As soon as
this morning, that advocate was taking you through different steps.
Yes.
And showing the pile up of corpses. That's what she was doing. And wanting to know why were you not alive to that and why didn't you report it and why didn't you respond to it? So if there is such a schedule, why didn't you know when everybody went quiet? In other words, when they passed on.
Justice, when patient passed on, they were reported through the district to us, and then we will follow up if we need anything. But there are documents that indicating who passed on. We knew about that. The only hassle that maybe council was asking was that it was 64 while we reported 36. Then I said...
It's much more than that, ma'am.
Yes, I'm just giving
From the beginning, every time somebody died under the state's care, appearing on your schedule, this grand schedule with all the details, you would know, isn't it?
That's correct, Justice.
Why didn't you know?
We knew as soon as we reported, we knew about them, Justice.
Your answer is different to Advocate Krause.
Yes, with the qualification that I was giving, but we knew, because once we realized a lot of patients now are passing on, we had to ensure that we get even weekly report to find out that.
Why didn't the MEC tell the whole nation?
Hey.
You said because the questions did not ask about that.
Yeah, the one I prepared, Justice, didn't ask about that, but that the death were reported.
But why didn't you make it public that people who you decided to place in different NGOs were dying? That's really what the debate was with Advocate Krause.
Justice, it was not reported by me, and I don't know reasons why.
No, but
it
why
was not
didn't you
said.
report it?
I reported to the through the channel to the project manager. I reported through the channels, but I'm not the one to report.
No, I'm not talking channels. Give me names. I want people.
People?
Yes.
I reported to Mr. Musenogo that people are starting to die. Also, the DDG also was made aware, the HOD, and
Who's the DDG by
Dr.
name?
Libet was also Dr. Libet, and then
Yes.
we had the HOD, Dr. Silubane, and we have the MEC.
So you told them about people dying, as well as the MEC, I suppose, Mr. Tani Matango.
Yes, they were also part of the
What was
meeting.
their response?
Although I can't give you the written response, but nobody in the department was really happy. We were all saddened by the death of the patient.
What you had started, why didn't you call it off? All of you were these powerful executives. Why didn't you say people are dying? Something went wrong. As it happened in October 2016, the project was called off, right? So the debate between you and Advocate Krause is, why didn't you do that so that fewer and fewer people die?
It was not within my delegation to stop the project.
Whose
but
power was it to
the
stop?
The power was the MEC and HOD.
If you had the power, would you have stopped the project?
I believe so.
When people started dying, would you have been worried and stopped it?
I was actually worried, really, Justice.
Why
and
show me a letter where you recommended to the MEC or anybody to stop it?
The letter was, I didn't write a letter because at that time, we already finished with placement in June. So what we were supposed to have done now is to look for the place where if we take the patient, we take them away. Because life assessment was already closed, no patient, no staff, no resources was already there. So it was within us to say, let's see what we can do and where can we take this patient to. And we tried to do something like that, Justice.
On another matter, do you know what happened to the people who worked at Life Esidimeni? The nurses, the clinicians, the cleaners, and other support staff?
I can partly tell you what I know. I don't know all of them, but what I know was that during the process, there was an HR team that was planning to appoint the Life Esidimeni staff, and it's indicated, I think you have it in my report, that how many staff from Life Esidimeni were appointed in Vescopis, Kalinen, and Sterfontein. However,
you haven't told me yet what happened to the staff members. You're telling me there was a plan.
No, sorry,
what happened to their jobs?
Some of them were appointed by the department.
How many people lost their jobs?
I'm not quite sure, but if I've been given time, I can check, because I've got a list of those the department has appointed.
I'm asking about those who lost their jobs at Life Esidimeni. Many things might have happened to them thereafter. They might have been appointed, they might have been whatever else. I want to know, when it shut down, how many people lost their jobs?
I don't know, Justice.
Mr. Musenogi told us. I want you to tell us.
I don't know how many lost, because there might be many. Why I'm saying that Life Esidimeni has been operating
hundreds, isn't it?
Even with contracts, resources. Yes, it can be hundreds. We didn't appoint all of them. That can be true, but I don't have the exact number.
Psychiatric nurses like you, clinicians, doctors, ground staff, and people who did cleaning work, we told lost their jobs. Did you think about that when you got into this project?
Yes, it's
The
very
one end is people who lost their lives, and the other one people who lost their jobs.
Yes, yes, Justice. We thought about it. That's why we recommended that if they can be appointed in the department, let them be appointed. If the department can just absorb them all or use one of their facility, let it be. So that's what we were doing.
What do you mean, let it be?
So we ask the leadership to say if we can absorb all of them, that will help. And then again, if this maybe
the
we
number
use
that
one.
Mr. Musinogi gave us was a small percentage of nearly 300 people or so. I can check the numbers that lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Now I want to know, you as the head of mental health care, were you worried about that?
Yes, Justice, I was worried about that.
But you nonetheless went ahead with the plan.
It was not my decision to went ahead of the plan, but I worried about it. We met, and it was also presented how many people are going to lose jobs and how many people may not even qualify in our own work. Like the care workers, we didn't have care workers in the department. So that's why the MEC and the HOD asked, after we advised, that let there be HR team to work and see how can we assist these people. So that's about what we recommended.
Did you care that so many people would lose their jobs and they are healthcare givers?
Yes, Justice, I did care. Can I tell you that I even had to ask the NGO if they can appoint the care workers from Life SABC. Because I was worried, I was concerned, because we know what mental health is.
And were any appointed at NGOs?
The report that came back to me was that the Life SABC were paying them more money because the hours
were any appointed at NGOs?
I don't know about it.
Council.
Doctor, I want to come to the patients that were discharged home during this project. I see, am I correct that you anticipated that about 50 patients would be sent home when you started the project in your initial plan?
That's correct.
Thank you. And when the MEC first spoke in Parliament, or when she spoke in November, she also said 50 were going to be sent home. Do you agree with that?
I agree, although we'll just know who will go home, because in our thinking...
Let us just answer the questions, please, Doctor.
Okay, fine, I agree.
Thank you. Now, we know when people go home, and this is also according to Dr. Tala, there's insufficient community care for them. You agree with that?
Not 100% agreeing with that.
Okay. And we also know in terms of the policy, often the mental health care users end up on the streets because their families can't care for them. Isn't that so?
That we know.
Yes. And also, according to Dr. Malamela, often they land in the criminal justice center. Do you agree with that?
There are patients that will end in the criminal justice center.
And the reason for that is that there's not sufficient support for families and mental care health users at the community level. Do you agree with that?
I partly agree with that, but it's not all that I can say. That is the reason.
Now, we also know that eventually close to 400 people were sent home. 393 people were sent home. Do you agree with that?
That's correct.
And Mr. Kinoshi testified that 59 of those people are still missing. Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of that.
Did you not track the patients that were sent home to make sure that they get community service?
Can I explain that, how we did it?
Now, first answer my question, then you can explain. Did you not track what happened to the patients that you sent home?
We did track.
Now, I'm asking that you track.
Yes, yes, let me say yes.
You tracked?
Yes.
So what happened to these 59 people that are missing?
Can I explain that? I'm not sure what I'm going to explain will cover everything for anyone who were missing. But what I know is that once the patients are in the hands of the family, they've been linked to the nearest clinic, so that the family at the time for collection of medication or at the time when the patient's behavior changes, they can take the patient to the nearest clinic. At that time, they will take them to the nearest clinic where they are seen by the community mental health care staff. So that's how it should. If they were not taken there, or maybe the patient didn't want to go, they also call the clinic and say, can you come and help us? It's due time for the patient for treatment. He doesn't want to come. So when they need any assistance, they were given how will they get assistance from us.
You wanted to explain what you were doing. What did you do?
What I said is what we did.
Okay. I'm going to ask the question again. What did you do?
What I just explained is what we did. Do I explain? Should I explain again?
But again, is there a schedule, are they on your schedule of people who left Life eSetimeni?
The people who left, who were discharged from Life eSetimeni, they are given, if they go home, they are given treatment sheet that they take it to the clinic.
Listen to me. You told us you have a master sheet that contains all the people who you caused to be moved out of Life eSetimeni. Were these patients included on that schedule?
No, they were not included.
Why not?
Because when they are discharged from Life eSetimeni, it was like the way it used to happen. They are given what I just explained to the council, and they take that note to the clinic, so that when the clinic order medication, they also include them. So it was not in the provincial level at that time.
And you were asked, did you track them? And you said yes.
Yes, in the meetings we had with the coordinator, we checked if all the patients that came, that were discharged, went to their clinics, because the clinics belongs to the district, and register.
How do you track people whose names you have not kept?
The way it has been tracked, Justice, is through the district. It was not through my office, because if the family said, we are taking our member to home, then we'll ask, what is your nearest clinic? The letter is sent with the family to the nearest clinic, and they will take the letter so that the treatment for that patient will be ordered before the patient comes to the clinic. And that function is done by the district coordinators, who will report in the meeting if they had any challenges.
And how do 59 people go missing?
I don't know, Justice.
It can be, you know that, you're a public servant. It can be that any answer that comes to your mind is okay to give. We're talking about human beings who are under your care. That's what you're being asked about. Who you caused to be discharged, presumably to their homes, and they go missing. And this is what this inquiry is about. If you could just bring your mind to the core issue that the advocate is trying to understand, it will help all of us so much. And you know why? You owe us a duty of explanation. You were paid every day to do the work. You're not doing anybody a favor. It was your work to look after these people, and for it you were paid. So she's entitled to ask you What happened to these 59 people who, again, are also vulnerable? That you chose to discharge them does not mean they cease to be vulnerable. What's your response?
Justice, I'm giving you the procedure as it happened, because these patients are not sent to the provincial level. They are community, and in the community, we have got community offices. So that's what I'm trying to give to these proceedings. And if it doesn't, I don't know, that's what I'm giving. This is how it worked. It doesn't mean that they will send to Dr. Manamela in the province. It will still be the same process that we are using, because we wanted to include these people in the community, all of them.
Yes. Doctor, your answer in short is you didn't do anything to track them.
That's not true.
Can I just interrogate your answer further? Putting the blame now on the clinics is really not going to work. Being in the Department of Health, you know that they're understaffed. You know that they don't have all the medicine that they should have. Isn't that so? Just yes or no, please, Doctor.
Yes.
Now, as a responsible manager, you would have known that sending them to the clinics is no answer at all. Isn't that so?
No.
Okay, let us move on, Doctor. I only have a few questions left for you, but
Yes.
is that a smile on your face, Justice?
It's a smile on my face, indeed. We can change voices in this tribunal. So I've been hearing one voice for a very long time.
Thank you, Justice. We've established that this project wasn't about money. Now, if it wasn't about money, why was the project initiated? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. We also established from you that you had no written instruction whatsoever. Is that right? To do this project?
No, that is not right, because the written instruction was the termination letter.
No, but you started this project, please, Doctor. You started this project long before the termination letter. I'm asking you, who gave you, you said you didn't have a written instruction. Are you changing that now?
Maybe you didn't hear me very well, but I'm changing it, because the first 200 beds we started to work on is on the strategy that was signed by the HOD, which to me is a written instruction. And the second 20% is also on the letter that I gave last week, which is also saying we're going to reduce. I didn't start the project on my own as the director.
Before the letter, you developed a plan. Now, I want to know, did you have a written instruction for that plan?
The written instruction I had was the strategy for mental health care services, which I can hand it to you, signed by the HOD.
Doctor, did you have a written instruction to remove all patients from Life Esidimeni?
All patients. The termination letter is the written instruction that I had.
So at the time that you prepared the plan to do that, you didn't have a written instruction, according to you?
I had a written instruction of 2 letters. I'm not sure of the date the HOD signed 20%, but I'm sure of the date for the strategy to be implemented.
I will leave that for argument. Can I just have a few quick answers from you? Who's the NGO manager who prepared your licenses?
It's Miss Jacobos.
Can you spell that, please?
Jacobus. Jacobus.
Hannah Jacobus.
Yes.
So she's the person that told you to sign these licenses?
She's the person who prepared the licenses.
Next question is that...
I'm sorry, just before you go, Council, what was her designation?
She is the Deputy Director, Mental Health, responsible for NGO in the province.
Where is she now?
I guess she's in the office because I'm not in the office, I'm suspended. I guess she's still in the office.
And when you say she prepared the licenses, you mean what? You mean she did all the due diligence, I mean the work, and just gave you a written out license to sign?
What I mean, Justice, is that she went out with the team to evaluate. Some of the team I might have been there, some may not be there. But when they come back, they agreed she will prepare the license. In some areas, she will just get the request for the license from the district and she will prepare the license.
Have you ever refused to sign a license she prepared before?
Yeah, there were many that I refused to sign, but I can't remember which ones.
For which reason?
Like if maybe I'm not in agreement with what the report said, or maybe I was there as well, I saw that we can't give license to this one, I will refuse.
So if we called Ms. Anna Jacobus, she will tell us that she prepared all these licenses for you to sign.
That's correct, Justice.
Counsel.
Doctor, the Justice asked you whether your job was advertised. And you said no, and you also said you're not a political appointment. So how did you get your job?
Okay.
Just the short version, if you don't mind.
Okay, the department will restructure and appoint people, same as like Mr. Museno said, he was in the district and was called to do planning.
It was a restructuring process?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Could you give us the name?
But why did you leave your position as CEO of Natal Sprite?
I was advised to come to the head office.
By whom?
By, at that time, the chief of operation was Dr. Rahman, and the MEC was also. She was she was still in the department, but it was Dr. Rahman.
No, by whom? But who called you? Who terminated your appointment as CEO?
Dr. Rahman. Dr. Rahman.
Why did Dr. Rahman terminate your appointment?
In one meeting, she told me that the MEC said I must be recalled because many CEOs were recalled from the hospital to the province.
Were you told why you were recalled?
Because they made a phone call. They didn't give me a letter. It was me and the other
No,
executive.
but you were called back before the end of your term as CEO. And I'm asking you, right? It was before the end of your term.
That's correct.
I'm asking you, why were you recalled? Do you know?
I said the Dr. Rahman indicated that he was instructed to recall me and my other team members.
Do you know why?
He didn't indicate the reason, but what I know was that there were some union activities in the hospital and they felt that maybe they should recall the management.
And the union activity demanded that you be removed, right?
I'm just guessing that because I was not told the
No, in your own knowledge, you were there, you were the CEO.
Yeah, I think so.
The union wanted you, and the union was Nehau, right?
That's correct.
And they wanted you to be removed as CEO.
That's correct.
Was that the first time and the only time you were removed as a CEO of a hospital?
That's the first time.
And the only time?
And the only time.
Where else were you CEO of a hospital?
Mamelodi Hospital.
Yes. And did you leave there after a full term?
Yeah, even beyond that.
No, I want to know whether your contract was terminated after a term or did you stay out a full term?
I stayed
These are
there.
not difficult facts. You
No,
can call
I
Dr.
I
Ginoshi
stayed full
and
term.
ask him, because there are records about these
No,
things.
I stayed over full term.
And then transferred to Natalspruit.
Appointed at Natalspruit. They advertised a post at Natalspruit. Then I went for interviews and I was appointed.
What were the unions unhappy about? Do you know? At Natalspruit Hospital?
I think there were a lot of, the union will always complain. So the complaints about HR processes, yes, I think the main issue was their HR processes.
Now, after your departure from Natalspruit Hospital, short of your full term, how did you get appointed head of mental health care?
Okay.
And by whom?
All right, letters were written to almost most of us. There were doctors. It was a restructuring process where they said we ran short of some doctors in the institution. So I received a letter that said I'm appointed as the director for mental health services.
You know by now, after we spent 4 days together, I don't like letters were sent.
Okay.
The subject, a verb, and an object. A basic, simple sentence. Who sent a letter to you?
Dr. Rahman's office. I am not quite sure, but it appears all letters were signed by the MEC, but the inquiry was from Dr. Rahman or HR.
So your appointment, we could track down with the MEC. Can we ask her about your appointment when she comes?
Can I suggest that yeah, I think it's still okay, but you can also track it down with HR.
And who signed your letter of appointment?
I'm not sure now because I didn't have time to check, but it's either the HR manager or the HR chief director or the MEC. I'm not sure because the whole process of taking doctors to hospital and others to others, I think it was on the advice of the MEC, but I'm not sure it was signed by MEC on my letter or the HR chief director. That we can still check.
Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. Could I also ask you, what is the name of the company who provided clothing and linen to the NGOs?
The name of the company, I'm not sure, but I know that it was, they said it's Mr. Stevens, and Miss Hannah Jacobs was the one who organized it. And when I went to the NGO, I saw the linen. That's
so
what
you
I
don't know the name of the company?
The name of the company, I don't know, but it was reported in the meeting is Mr. Stevens, but I don't know the name of his company. And
so it's not something you organized?
No, it's something that was brought to me and I organized. It's not me, it's still the NGO manager who should take it further. It's not me who will organize it.
Doctor, did you sign any death certificates?
No.
So the name Manamela on the death certificates wasn't you?
Death certificate? No.
Then just lastly, Doctor, the family members knew before the start of this marathon project that this is going to turn out badly. You agree with that? Just yes or no?
If the family said they know, there's nothing I can say.
They told you that?
Yes, they told me.
Thank you. The professionals told you that this is not going to turn out good. Do you agree with that?
Yes, they wrote letters.
Now, a reasonable person would have realized that this is not going to turn out good. Do you agree?
I agree.
Do you agree with me that the reasonable expert would have known that there are going to be huge problems in this project?
Not fully agreeing with that one.
And I lastly want to put it to you, you should have known that people were going to die.
When we plan, we never plan that any person will die. So I cannot say I knew that they are going to die. If I knew, I should have written a letter and say I'm not part of the project if the leadership carries on.
And Doctor, even after people had died, you didn't do that. Isn't that so?
We already terminated at that time. So I had to work hard to ensure that the rest are not going to die. So, because it was done already.
Doctor, I want to just put it to you that the deaths of so many of these people lies before your feet. Do you agree?
No.
Thank you, Justice.
No. Thank you, Counsel. Advocate Groenewald.
Thank you, Justice. Good morning, Dr. Manamela. My name is Dirk Groenewald. I represent 4 family members who lost a loved one as a consequence of this marathon project. My colleagues have asked you a number of questions, and they have canvassed a lot of issues with you. Unfortunately, I also need to ask you a few questions. I would start off by asking you, ma'am, I trust that you've gathered from the comments by the family members during your testimony that they are angry with you. You agree?
That's correct.
Do you know why they are angry with you?
They haven't indicated that to me. But what I know is that they lost the loved one, which is also a pain to me.
Ma'am, I put it to you that they are angry at you because you issued licenses to NGOs under whose care their loved ones died. You agree and you understand why they are angry at you.
That's correct.
That's correct. And ma'am, you will agree that if you did not sign and issue those licenses, their loved ones would still have been with them.
I cannot say I agree on that. Can I qualify it? Because I didn't know if they would be dying. I didn't know. And in our plan, we never planned for anyone to die. And again, the signing of the licenses was within the legal consideration. So I didn't know. If I knew, I shouldn't have carried on.
Ma'am, your employer has conceded that these patients died due to the department's reckless and negligent conduct. So are you saying that your employer was wrong? They shouldn't have conceded that the department was reckless and negligent.
I'm not saying that because the employer, they can say what they believe is what they believe. But from our project team and where I was seated, we were doing our best to ensure that no patient died.
Ma'am, but you are not facing the reality. The reality is that you issued licenses to NGOs, and under the care of those NGOs, 143 human beings died. Do you accept that?
That is true.
That is true. So now we must understand, why did you issue those licenses? Because if you didn't issue those licenses, as I've indicated, these patients might well have still been alive.
Can I say the license was issued because the contract was terminated?
No,
so
ma'am.
I didn't wake up and store
I'm going to stop you
issue
there.
licenses.
I'm going to stop you there, ma'am. The licenses weren't issued because the Life Esidimeni contract was terminated. You issue licenses because you say that this NGO is capable of looking after patients. That is when you issue a license. Not because one contract gets terminated and you then just dish out licenses. Do you agree with that?
You are right, I didn't just dish out licenses.
Well,
the licenses that I signed, I was for the licenses, for the licensed NGO that were assessed and reported to me to be eligible. If you look at the document of the licenses, some of the NGOs were not even given the patient because of their condition. So there were NGOs we licensed, we gave a patient, some we didn't.
ma'am, do you know a Mrs. Matsotsu?
That's correct, Council.
Who is she, ma'am?
She's the Director General for Health in the country.
Do you know she testified here at these proceedings?
I know she did.
Yeah.
And you watched her evidence, you said the other day.
Yes, I watched some of the evidence.
Justice, just for the sake of my colleagues and yourself, I'm going to refer to the day 4 of the proceedings. It's on the 12th of October at pages 4 of the transcript.
Yes.
Now, ma'am, Mrs. Matsotsu testified as follows. She said, so out of the 27 facilities prior to the Ombuds report, the ministerial task team had already recommended that there be closure of some of the facilities. So by the time that the report was released, there were facilities that were already closed. So out of 20 facilities, there was a recommendation that 14 had to be closed and patients had to be relocated to more adequate private facilities. So before you were suspended, man, a number of NGOs were closed down. You will agree.
That's correct.
Now the Ombudsman also tells us in his report that he knew at the time that he was requested to do the investigation, Bob Belong, Sierman, Anker, Bokang and Siabadinga was already closed.
That's correct. And we were the one who closed some of them.
Exactly, ma'am. Now let's keep it short and sweet. How is it possible that you, having issued licenses saying that the NGO is fit to take in patients, within 3 months of those NGOs receiving patients, you close them down and you say they are not fit? How's that possible?
I have indicated last week that some were not paid and the staff left. So we couldn't force because the NGO takes care of this patient on their own. They are not being forced. So if we found that they are not even staff members anymore, the patient was still in our care. Then we have to move the patient where we can ensure that the patient they will receive better care.
So is it your testimony, ma'am, that these NGOs, which you issued licenses for and which were closed down within 3 months of them receiving patients, they were simply closed down because they didn't have staff? Is that the only reason they were closed down?
It may not be the only reason, but the staff was another thing. The payment was not being done for them.
No,
so without the staff who need to be paid, the resources that they may need, if they were not willing to get the clothes from the company and the meals, and then they will have no choice. Like we have been doing that throughout the process.
You are shifting blame, ma'am. I'm putting it to you. You are shifting blame.
No,
You're not trying to blame the finance department.
No, I'm not shifting blame.
Yes, ma'am. Then take responsibility and say, well, there was a number of issues. I shouldn't have issued these licenses. And I know it now.
No. How, Council, it was presented to me that the council, the NGO can be able to manage. We did some visit, and some of the psychiatrists went with us. The engineers went with us. There are others that I didn't go because you don't deliver by yourself all the time. But we had all the records that this NGO can deliver the services.
No, but listen to the question. You know now, according to you, what you did not know then, but you know now that you should not have issued the licenses? Well, that's what council is asking you. What's your response to that?
I know now, but I still saying I didn't issue the license
Do you
illegally.
know now that you should not have issued the license?
That's what these proceedings are saying. But
No.
No, now
Council wants your answer. Do you know now?
No, I know now, although I don't agree with the now. Because at the time when I issued the licenses, the NGO were eligible to take care of the patient.
Where you sit now, knowing your statutory responsibilities, and it's another matter whether you have them in law. We can debate it some other time. Knowing that now, do you think you did the right thing in issuing the licenses, where 143 people died? That's the question put to you.
But I said at that time I knew, at that time it was right. Now I know that you are saying it was not right.
You are saying, who's saying that?
I am saying, according to the document, legal document I have, I still know that there was no request that I be delegated. And last week I was told that what I know is not right. That's what you said to me.
Listen to the Advocate Groeneval says to you, do you now know that whatever you might have thought then, you were wrong in issuing the licenses? You won't concede in that.
That I was wrong in issuing the licenses.
You know now that that was the wrong decision.
I know now from you, but by then it was not wrong.
Council, you go ahead.
So you admit that you should not have issued the licenses, ma'am? I want a yes or no.
No.
So you still persist that you rightfully, even in hindsight, you rightfully issued the licenses?
I legally reissued the licenses.
So you are saying that nothing was wrong with these NGOs. The department was in fact incorrect. They shouldn't have closed these NGOs down. Is that what you say? These Precious Angels, Anchor, all of those NGOs, according to you, should still be open and functioning. Then why not?
I haven't said that.
Why should they not be open?
Because when we realize the NGOs has got challenges, then we have to do something like closing them. And that's what I said we've been doing throughout the 5 years that I've been in this. If the NGO at the beginning is eligible to take care, we go regularly and find they are not. We've been closing. So we'll still have been closing even after the life accident termination contract.
Yeah, ma'am, let's move on. I'll get back to this point, but let's move on. What are the legal requirements for obtaining a license to admit, treat, and accommodate patients?
Okay.
What's the legal requirements for issuing a license?
The area need to be assessed and audited.
Area,
and
the premises.
The premises.
Okay, I'm going to take you slowly through that. So you need the premises.
Yes, that's correct.
That premises needs to be assessed.
That's correct.
Yes, and found suitable.
That's correct.
All right. Next.
And the staff as well for that NGO. And the type of patient they can be taken care of is also considered. And that the NGO has been registered with the social development.
Yes.
I think there are others that maybe I might have left, but
ma'am, you are the director. You should know this at the top of your fingers. You should know exactly what is the legal requirements for NGO, for a license, to issue a license.
Yeah, but I gave you the most important one that I remember.
All right, we will get to each of these just now. Now, Mrs. Matsotsu testified and she said that there's basically 4 key requirements. She said that the first is that before an NGO can be operated, the Department of Social Development must issue them with a registration. Do you agree?
I agree.
She testified further. Secondly, before an NGO can operate, they must have a municipality license. Do you agree?
I agreed.
Okay. Thirdly, before an NGO can operate to render mental health services, if they are also going to render health services, they must have a license to render health services in terms of the National Health Act, but they must also have a license in terms of the Mental Health Act. Do you agree?
In terms of national health care, I didn't know about that. It was not one of the list of the requirement, especially again in terms of the municipality at that time. It was not, but I knew later about that.
Justice, I will request to hand up new LR85 for me. I have provided it to my colleagues. Ma'am, do you know this document?
Yes, Council, I know the document.
What is this document?
It's about basic requirements for NGO license under the mental health care.
So they need to comply with these standards. For you to issue a license, this is the checklist that needs to be complied with.
That's correct.
That's correct. So let's just go through some of these. Signed and dated copy of the current service level agreement. You need a service level agreement before you can give a license. You agree?
I agree.
Yes, ma'am. Now we heard testimony of at least, that I can recall now from the top of my head, Precious Angels and Anchor, which took in patients prior to signing a service level agreement with the department. That's the testimony. So the license issued to them was not correct, was not lawful.
Can I explain that?
Ma'am, you just testified and you said that a service level agreement is a requirement for issuing a license. I've put it to you that the evidence at these proceedings were that at least Precious Angels and Anchor did not have signed service level agreements with the department at the time when they took in patients, and therefore I put it to you that those licenses issued to them were unlawful.
You can happily add Sharma to the question.
Can I explain that?
I want a yes or no answer, please, ma'am.
Would you answer the question, please?
Justice, through you, can I answer the question and also explain?
Yes, answer the question, and it might be necessary to explain. But first,
Yes.
answer the question.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, it was unlawful.
And what explanation do you want to make?
The explanation I want to make was that the service level agreement is signed by the district, and there was a meeting that they called, and these NGOs were given the copy of the service level agreement to go and discuss further with their board and sign and bring it back. So the date that you saw there that Mr. Chief Director signed is the date when they were sent back. But in that meeting, it was in principle agreed that they will be taking care of the patient, but they must go and discuss first with the board. That's why the DD in my office planned and submit the request for licenses.
Ma'am, have you heard what you just testified?
Yes.
Have you heard?
I heard.
Yes. You say, oh, well, you know, we said to the NGOs, you know, this is in principle the service level agreement. Sort it out and sign it and bring it back to us, but we'll issue you licenses in the meantime.
It's not what I'm saying.
Your testimony confirms what we've heard throughout this arbitration proceedings that you were reckless and you were negligent in issuing these licenses.
So if this is what you are saying, then what do I say? Because it's how you are saying it is. It's
No,
you to
no,
judge.
no, man.
I don't know.
No, we can't.
Because
listen, you are asked a simple question. You issued licenses without service level agreement having been signed. And council says that shows recklessness and negligence besides unlawful conduct. Just deal with that.
Justice, I'm trying to deal with that because we are sitting here, some of us were not in health, and I'm trying to explain how it came to be in that manner, but I'm told I'm reckless and whatever. So, but I'm trying to explain so that you understand what was happening. We train these people first. In the training, before you give them the service level agreement document, you train them on what is in the service level agreement. They take it and go back to the board and discuss it with the board. So if they don't want to be part, they won't be part even if we gave license. That's what I was saying.
Ma'am,
so just
once
for you
again,
to understand
once again,
the process.
you're saying you issued licenses to NGOs, which you said, well, they can still decide whether or not they wanted to provide the service. Do you listen to what you testify?
They agreed they can render the services, but we trained them. When we train them, it's then that we say, this is the service level agreement. Look at it and take it to your board, because it's the board who must sign.
Ma'am, I stand to be corrected, but none of the NGOs that testified, CEOs of the NGOs that testified here, testified that you provided training to them. That was in fact one of the main concerns, that to say that you promised them training. You promised them training, but you never delivered. What's your answer to that, ma'am?
My answer to that was that the manager were trained by, you look at what is it that you want them to know first. For example, in terms of service level agreement, we call the finance. There are documents where the finance were meeting with this NGO and trained them on the service level agreement. But if they said that is their word against my word, and I don't know what to say anymore about that.
But are you going to answer the question of council that you issued licenses before service level agreements were signed? There might be an explanation for that, but do you understand you to say you did?
That's correct.
Thank you, Justice. Oh, ma'am, let me just go through there. There's quite a number of issues here. Admission of users. If you go down, it's the second last bullet point there before the middle of the page. Admission of criteria, screening process, means test, fee structure. And it says, NB, all the above documents must be kept updated and on file for easy access. Now, ma'am, we have seen from the reviews conducted by your own department as early as July of 2016 that a number of the NGOs did not comply with any of these requirements. What's your response to that?
I don't know what to say, but the issue was that because of maybe the period, I'm not sure of that because I didn't see that and prepare myself in time. But because of the time period, that is why we asked for 3 months extension. Maybe that was the reason that when the DD was preparing the license, these other things were not there. Because what is here, Justice, is taken to the document that we used at the NGO. So what they presented to me was not this one, was that document of audit.
What are you saying now?
I am saying, Justice, it can be true that most of them were not meeting this requirement as they are here.
Okay, we have an answer. At last, the answer is most of the NGOs who you issued licenses to did not comply with most of the requirements on LR 89. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that I'm saying that.
Okay, Council, there's your answer.
Thank you very much.
Now, there is an explanation, and you might want to hear it or not hear it.
Just,
but the answer is they did not comply with most of these requirements.
Ma'am, I want to highlight one specific issue, because that's going to go, or I'll return to that later on. But you will see their license. It's in the middle of the page, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets, 6 bullets. It's marked there. License. Only the number of users specified on the license may be in the NGO at any time. Last one. Only the type of users specified on the license may be in the NGO at any time. So if your license tells you you have X amount of patients that you can care for, no more than that, maybe. Put it.
That's correct.
And if your license say you are licensed to look after a set category of patient, you cannot look after any sort of other category of patient. That's correct.
That's correct.
But you agree that during your testimony in these proceedings, you admitted that that was not, in fact, followed. NGOs received patients in terms of licenses, in terms of a license that they weren't entitled to receive. Let me clarify that. You concede, you admit that NGOs received patients other than those specified in their license.
Yes, in some NGOs it was like that.
So there was non-compliance with that. There was non-compliance with that, ma'am. I don't know how you want to qualify or clarify that.
I want to qualify.
You
may not take it if I'm allowed. Can
Let's
I?
go for it.
The mentally ill patients, you may find that they've got, they're diagnosed as mentally disabled coupled with mental illness. So that at times you find the person who's mentally disabled is still in the hospital with the other type of patient, but it's not all of them or all the time. So that is what we look at. What is the predominant diagnosis of this person? He's there, maybe having mental disabled. The next time is also a schizophrenic patient. So that's why you find that there were patients who cannot just be fully in mentally ill institution or fully in mentally disabled institution like Bokalinen. So that's why we were at that, it was made in that vision.
So, ma'am, if I understand you correctly, you deliberately and willfully did not comply with the licenses of the NGOs. You sent them patients which you knew in terms of their license, they actually may not take in.
Not deliberately, but considering their diagnosis and other problems the patient had. So, like I said, you may find that the patient who predominantly suffer from mental disability is also having mental illness, psychiatric patient conditions. So that was an issue that you may find that they're at the same place.
What are you and Dr. Manamela talking about?
Well, hopefully, Justice, you are understanding my line of questioning. The long and the short is just, they sent patients to NGOs, which they knew in terms of their license, those NGOs could not take. The licenses wasn't qualified to take those kinds of patients. And we heard the evidence that, yes, that's so, but we played around with with the diagnosis of the patients and what they suffered. But the long and the short is, the conduct was willful, and you knew that those NGOs could not take those patients.
I didn't know that they cannot take care of the patient because we didn't force this patient to them.
All right, so you didn't force. Justice, perhaps if we can adjourn now, because we're going to get to a very important part of the cross-examination.
But the witness knows about Ella 80, it's 85, is it?
She knows about it, and she
knows this is what she should do in order to issue a license.
She has admitted to that.
And she accepts that she didn't comply with these requirements.
Indeed, so.
I think it's a good time to take the adjournment, yes. We're going to adjourn up to 12 o'clock.
News, business, sports and weather from local and around the globe here on News Today.
It was important for me to nip all of these issues in the bud as they appear, so that we can give the assurance to the holders of pensions.
South Africa has more than 24,000 plant species which can be used to generate income for her citizens.
People believe that we as Africans have very little to offer the world in terms of science and technology.
The 24-year-old was the last rider to be caught after a break of more than 180 kilometers in Sunday's men's elite race at the World Road Championships in Bergen, Denmark. Smit is also the African road race champion, the South African race champion and the South African time trial champion.
Tune in to News Today every Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m.
Well, there you have it. The arbitration process is taking a break until 12 o'clock. And as you heard, the suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director, Dr. Makgoba Manamela, has denied claims that she didn't do anything about the deaths of more than 140 mentally ill patients that were moved from Life Isidimeni to the NGOs. Testifying at the hearings and the arbitration there currently underway, Dr. Manamela said that she reported the deaths to the right channels.
But why didn't you make it public that people who you decided to place in different NGOs were dying? That's really what the debate was with Advocate Krause.
Justice, it was not reported by me, and I don't know reasons why.
No, but why didn't you report it?
I reported to the through the channel to the project manager. I reported through the channels, but I'm not the one to report.
No, I'm not talking channels. Yeah. Give me names. I want people.
People?
Yes.
I reported to Mr. Musenogo that people are starting to die. Also, the DDG also was made aware. The HOD and
who's the DDG by
Dr.
name?
Libet was also Dr. Libet, and
Yes.
then we had the HOD, Dr. Silobane, and we have the MEC.
So you told them about people dying, as well as the MEC, I suppose, Mr. Tani Mahlangu.
Yes, they were also part of the meeting.
What was their response?
Although I can't give you the written response, but nobody in the department was really happy. We were all saddened by the death of the patient.
What you had started, why didn't you call it off? All of you were these powerful executives. Why didn't you say, people are dying. Something went wrong. As it happened in October 2016, the project was called off, right? So the debate between you and Advocate Krause is, why didn't you do that so that fewer and fewer people die?
It was not within my delegation to stop the project.
Whose
but
power was it to
the
stop?
The power was the MEC and HOD.
If you had the power, would you have stopped the project?
I believe so.
When people started dying, would you have been worried and stopped it?
I was actually worried, really, Justice.
Why did you show me a letter where you recommended to the MEC or anybody to stop it?
The letter was, I didn't write a letter because at that time, we already finished with placement in June. So what we were supposed to have done now is to look for the place where do we, if we take the patient, we take them away. Because Life Assessment was already closed, no patient, no staff, no resources was already there. So it was within us to say, let's see what we can do and where can we take this patient to. And we try to do something like that, Justice.
Meanwhile, the Gauteng Department of Health has appointed an intervention team to help it deal with its troubles. The appointment comes after what the department calls critical inadequacies in running the health system. The five-man team will focus on managerial as well as financial issues.
The team will be headed by Wits orthopedic professor, Professor Mkhululi. He'll be joined by Professor Craig Housam, Dr. Edith Mtla, Ms. Nomvula Marawa, and former National Treasury Director General Michael Sachs. Sachs will be tasked with sorting out the department's financial challenges. The department's finances are in dire straits as it faces multiple lawsuits and struggles to pay suppliers.
Michael Sachs will assume his responsibility in the province on the 1st of December. The team that the minister is going to go through will assume its responsibility on the 1st of December. We call it an intervention team because the state of affairs in the department requires a high caliber urgent intervention team that is put. That's why some of the people are recalled. People who have a good track record are recalled from retirement to help us stabilize the system, stabilize it financially, but turn its performance around.
The team will also deal with procurement and governance issues.
To clean up the whole procurement system and demand management, as well as payment of suppliers. Financial management, to clean up and align the whole departmental financial systems and audit control. Number 4, maintenance of equipment and refurbishment of infrastructure, to look into delegations of CEOs and heads of hospitals and other health facilities as far as maintenance of equipment and infrastructure is concerned.
It will also establish whether the challenges faced by the department are linked to corruption. Mahla Kukomani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Off the record, if I believed in it.
The race is on, but as political parties continue to garner support in the Metsima Hall or local municipality in Sasolburg ahead of Wednesday's municipal elections, our reporter Ntakwana Ngatani is in Sasolburg covering the story for us, and she now joins us live with a member of the ANC.
We are still in Sasolburg, and that is part of the Metsima Holo municipality, where in less than 48 hours, people here, about 80,000 of them, will be going to the polls to elect a new administration. This is after the administration that was elected in 2016 was collapsed around July. And we understand that the SACP has decided that it is going outside of the alliance to campaign head-to-head with the ANC here in Metsimaholo. And as you come into Sasolburg and other areas of Metsimaholo, you see the campaigning on the ground that has been going on. And we've spoken to several parties that have been on the campaign trail. But here today with us now is the party that held this municipality the last time with the 2011 elections with 26 seats, but lost in 2016 and only got 19 seats, failing to form a government. And so to talk to us now is the provincial organizer for the African National Congress, Ntate Ngqanyisa. Tell us, what is it that you're going to do different this time?
No, thanks for the opportunity and thanks for the viewers at home. The ANC has always been within and amongst the people, and we've interacted with the people. Even in the previous elections, the ANC has won 16 wards out of 21, and that in itself showed a great support towards the ANC. And the system of the allocation of seats in terms of the PR unfortunately gave us 3 seats. So we had 19 seats. But this time around, we've spoken to people because what we picked up, majority of people did not go out and vote. So we've spoken to them, and they've reassured us that the coalition government they experienced was actually a disappointment to them. So they want to bring ANC back and give ANC ultimate power and a decisive victory. So as we interact with the people, key what they raise is that their issues has to be priority number 1 at all times, and that's what the ANC has undertaken to do. That's what the ANC has committed to do. So we are confident now, come Wednesday the 29th, majority of people are going to go out and vote. We know as the ANC that if many people go out and vote, ANC votes are going to increase. We know that if less people go out and vote, the ANC has a problem in terms of receiving high numbers. So that's why we're speaking to people, and people have reassured us.
But of course, when you look at the fact that the SACP has decided that it's going to campaign head-to-head with the ANC this time around, for the first time really since 1994, could this have bled some of your support on the ground?
The SACP is an independent organization. The alliance is a dynamic and a living organism. You have the independent organizations. Of course, they are inter-independent as well. But what we have agreed on is that the Revolutionary Council is continuing to interact, and we are contesting here as independent organization, and we respect that. However, I think you are raising a critical point, and thanks for the question. It is true that to a large extent we have been sharing the same support base. We have been the electorate, or almost the same people that were voting for us, because we have been campaigning under the banner and the leadership of the African National Congress. And we have taken note of that. Despite that, people have said to us they know the ANC. They've interacted with the ANC. They understand, some do understand, some don't understand the difference between now of the new SACP contesting independently from the ANC. But we have taken time to explain that we need the ANC at the forefront, and we need the ANC to be leading the municipality. Of course, with our track record, we have assured people that we will continue the program of changing and bettering their lives.
Now, let's come to the topical issue at the moment, which is that the ANC is going to an elective conference in December. How far are you as the province in terms of solidifying and consolidating your branch nominations going to the conference?
The process of branch nomination, as you would know, has been completed, and there was a process of dispute resolving, which was extended, and it's also concluding. I can safely say that we are ahead. We have surpassed at least 70% of branches that are ready. It has been a tedious process, it has been a challenging process, but the leadership of the ANC has been equal to the task. We have made sure that at least members of the ANC, their voices and branches of the ANC as the basic unit of the organization have expressed their views openly and fairly. And come the conference of the ANC, which is going to be very successful and very resounding, we will be there in full force to make sure that ANC regain its confidence, its integrity, and advances to ensure that it attains its strategic objective as outlined in the National Democratic Revolution of ensuring that South Africa is free, is united, is democratic, is prosperous, and all people of South Africa do participate in the element of the economy of the country.
There are some who've said that, in fact, that conference might not even happen because of the challenges that we've seen. For instance, in the Eastern Cape, people have gone to court. In KwaZulu-Natal, people have gone to court. Could we see some of those court challenges derailing the conference itself?
The nice thing about the ANC as well, I would say, is a living organism. We live and within and amongst the people. The ANC, throughout its history, it has always gone through a process of contest, a process of different views, and people have been always towards conference express very strongly their views differently from one another. And after conference, we have always reconvened and reorganized, and everybody rally behind the leadership that is elected. And you would understand democracy is not an easy thing. And the ANC has in itself, as a democratic organization, undergone democratic processes that by their own nature are very tense, and the engagement is very intense. So people tend to construe that as a divisive and negative. But we understand in the ANC that contest has to be there. But after conference, I can reassure you that we're going to come out very strongly. And the conference of the ANC, the SG, has reassured everybody that is sitting, and we are sitting.
And of course, the Provincial General Council will be sitting next week, as I say, to consolidate all the branch nominations. How far are we with that?
As soon as the PGC, the process is concluded of the dispute resolution, the leadership will decide, the PGC will sit, and once it is set, it will also outline processes towards the national conference. That process is in good hands and is in total control, and we are sure that it's going to sit as expected.
In the event that the ANC does not get an outright majority here in Metsimaholo come Wednesday, are you willing to go into a coalition, and with whom?
I think the ANC leadership at that time will sit down and discuss and agree on what is good for the people and what is good for the ANC. However, I can assure you I'm here at the ground. We have been working with people. We don't expect that. We are going to register a decisive victory, and we are going to ensure that we take over the municipality and continue the program that was disrupted wrongly by the coalition to better the lives of our people.
Well, that is the African National Congress expressing its confidence that, in fact, with this election, it will reclaim Metsimaholo, that in fact the people now understand that they do not want another coalition, that in fact the ANC conference will go ahead, and that this province will go to that conference together, and that it will conclude its nomination process ahead of its Provincial General Council that will sit next week. It's back to you in studio.
We are your eyes in all major events around the world.
A wonder not seen in the United States in almost 100 years.
It looks like the sky of a different world. You see the stars out during the day. You see a sunset 360 degrees all around you.
Before you leave, make sure that Dropburn is taking you through traffic alerts all around South Africa.
All we can do is stick to what we do and focus on our own job and not focus on them.
The Boks will also don the red jersey in this match to mark the 25th anniversary of rugby unity in South Africa.
An update on all major currency to guide you. A story of women in jail told in pictures by Fatima Mir through art that will blow your mind. Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live.
Welcome back and warm greetings from the sports desk. Let's update your sports news. Orlando Pirates have moved from 8th to 2nd position on the log after their victory over Bloemfontein Celtic. The Buccaneers edged Siwelele by a 1-0 in an ABSA Premiership match in Bloemfontein. And Baroka FC still tops the log after they collected a single point following their 2-2 draw against the Tycoons from the North, the Platinum Stars, at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane.
PSL clubs and officials as well as supporters continue to pay tribute to the late seasoned broadcaster Cebo Manyapilo. And in the field of play, relegation threatened Platinum Stars stunned log leaders Baroka FC with a 1-0 first half lead. The goal was a moral booster for Dikwena, who came into this match with only one win. However, Baroka regrouped in the second half and substitute Mpho Khaswane leveled the scores. Wow! Platinum Stars pushed once more and were rewarded with a 2-1 lead. Baroka had other plans as they scored a late equalizer. Dangerman Thabo Kalinga was always going to cause all sorts of problems for Celtic defense. However, complacency got the better of him at the Dr. Mulimela Stadium. Former Celtic player Musa Nyatama led by example and scored his first goal for Orlando Pirates.
Scores against his old club. He won't celebrate out of respect for them, but the deadlock has been broken.
Meanwhile, TP Mazembe defended their CAF Confederations title after they beat SuperSport United 2-1 on aggregate in the second leg final. Last night, Mazembe held SuperSport to a 0-0 draw to clinch the continental title at the Masterpieces Moripa Stadium in Atteridgeville. Themba Shiba, SABC News.
The Southern Kings suffered their 9th defeat of the season when they went down by 30 points to 34 to conference leaders, the Scarlets of Wales. The Kings have now suffered 9 losses in a row, with Scarlets registering their 9th win of the season. It was heartbreaking for the home side to see their team lose after they led by 16 points to 10 at halftime.
Of course, this is a game here.
This fixture pitted the Conference B leaders, the Scarlets, against the Whipping Boys in their pool, the Southern Kings. The last time the two teams met, the Welsh side emerged 57-10 winners in September. The Scarlets had won 8 out of 8 matches, with the Southern Kings still winless after 8 matches. The visitors got their first try of the match through Takben just after 5 minutes on the clock. But it did not take long for Michael Makasi to respond with a try for the home side 5 minutes later.
That's a lovely finish. What a great kick that was. Michael Makasa.
Yao Peng put the Kings ahead when he scored another try a few minutes later. The Kings enjoyed a 6-point lead at the break after 2 penalties from Oliver Zono. Martin Dudoy got the 3rd try for the Kings in the beginning of the second half to give the home side some breathing space.
We've spoken about his stepping. That's a brilliant effort that from the inside centre.
The Scarlets fought back and were rewarded with their 2nd try of the match through Ion Nicholas. Then 7 minutes later, Werner Kruger got another try for the visitors to the disappointment of the home crowd. But the Scarlets' slender lead was overturned after a try by Bertrand Klassen.
It could work for the Kings, and it does. Oh my gosh. I think Holland Klassen has got the try.
The Conference B leaders never say die attitude saw them scoring another try, this time through Dan Jones, to ensure their win. The final score 30-34. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News.
You're not expecting to see.
And that's how we come to the end of your sports bulletin at this hour.
And of course, we asked a sporting question this morning, Marumo, and we asked you what was your sporting highlights. Let's take a look at what you are telling us.
Tasavi saying that Pirates beating Celtic and moving to the 2nd spot on the log.
Michael says boring withdrawals and hashtag PSL soccer.
This one's saying, well, it's the same as Pirates beating Celtic and moving to the second spot on the log. So I guess Lesawan is the happy man now, eh?
That's right, eh? But we also ask you the question about our new Miss South Africa, which is now Miss Universe. And let's take a look at what you were telling us there. We wanted you to send us congratulatory messages. And this is what One Nation says. I don't believe in beauty contests, but I am still proud that a South African won.
This one from Michael saying that she deserved it. Surely the entire country agrees with that.
Schlangy says, congratulations to Demi Lee. We're proud of you. We're proud of you, gal.
Proud of you, gal.
And of course, these are some of your comments, but there was also another question on the poll. And the poll, we wanted to find out something different from you. It's all about to do with renewable energies and so forth. Let's take a look at the numbers on the poll, whether or not we need renewable energy or whether we need nuclear power, that is. That was the question. And this is what you were telling us. Look at the numbers there, Maruma.
449 votes came in with 34% saying yes and a staggering 66% saying no.
No way we don't need nuclear energy. But you're also talking to us about this as well. There were some comments around that question. And this one, there's no comments there. But thank you so much for participating in the program. You can still vote. You've got 24 hours to vote on that poll, so let us know. From myself, Elvis Preslin.
And Marumo Kekana.
Arrivederci.